are being taped by, I believe, Stephen is also, the audio recording as is Laura. Okay, first on the agenda is citizens' participation.
Point of order, Madam Chair. The agenda that didn't appear to be particularly specific. Could you go down the list?
If you read the agenda starts with citizens' participation, and that's where we will start.
Well, point of order, I would appreciate if we could have clarification on the agenda because the items don't appear to be specific. Don't appear to be specific.
Everyone else. Yes.
Review, I'm sorry, I'm still speaking. Review of all open meeting law complaints with town council.
I can
Could you
explain
list,
all that. My point of order is to help answer that.
could you please list those items so I can be, as a member, be knowledgeable as to what you're intending to consider?
Well, I thought we were doing citizens.
We are doing citizens
So
participation.
you're not willing to answer my question as to the
Do we have any
specificity?
You do?
You're not
like to
willing to
participate.
answer my question concerning the specificity of item number 3?
Madam Chair, I'll follow
We
you.
have
Nor,
not gotten to
nor
item
the
number
items,
3
nor
yet.
the items under item 5.
Point of order. I
They
thought we were
appear
doing
not to
citizens
be-
participation.
They
That's
appear not to
exactly
be
what
in
we're doing.
they appear not
If
to
this
be
keeps up, I
specific.
have to
to
get
get
a
a gavel.
constable to remove her.
Okay, that's something.
You would remove me for asking you for
I would remove you
specificity
for
on the
interrupting
agenda
the flow of
items?
the meeting, yes.
Well, I made a point of order, Madam Chair,
And you were asked several times to stop.
because you're
We are
unwilling
starting
to,
with
Madam Chair?
citizens
You're unwilling to
Madam
participation.
Chair, I might
indicate the
have something that might
specificity.
help with the situation.
Oh, I also
Madam,
wanted
if
to,
I may,
Yes,
do I have
John.
permission to speak? And I'm speaking as a citizen, John Featherston, 98 Heritage Avenue. I have a gift that I would like to present to Chair. I hope you take it in the seriousness and the fun-hearted way that it is. But one of the items in there, I think you should pull out first, is small. You should probably pull that out first. You might want to take one or two of those. And the second one is very near and dear to me. I have to tell you that Governor Romney gave me the other article inside that bag. You might find that to be
Absolutely.
appropriate at this time.
Very good, thank you, John.
And then the third item inside the bag is I got that when Governor Romney was running for president. I chaired the Republican caucus, and that was one of the gifts. And I thought with all the interesting things that we've had with this board, that might be a useful tool for the new chair.
I think that would be an
So
excellent
I hope
thing
you use that in
keep
good
in-
health.
to keep in the office here. Thank you so much, John.
Okay, and I'd like to go with
Okay,
citizens
go ahead,
participation.
John. I mean, Mark.
I'd
Might
like
have
to,
to use that.
want to extend some congratulations for being newly voted in. Hopefully the air can be fresher and more positive going forward. And to have the rest of the board understand that it wasn't a person being taken out, it's an attitude that's got to be changed. And it's got to be a listening, non-combative attitude that's going to change. And the will of the board is the will of the board, no matter how many open meeting laws come out of it. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
I'll go.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm gonna echo the comment from the member. I find item number 3 to be lacking in detail. There are so many complaints now against this board, many of which I filed. Generally, the AG's office expects a main category and a second level of detail. There have been numerous complaints about that. I assume when you say you're taking up all of them, you're taking up all the complaints. I had to file 2 more today, including one against several members, including the chair, where it was discovered that the chair was advocating to replace the prior chair in email. And it's very disappointing that, when you anticipate a topic, that you don't give the public the courtesy of putting it on an agenda. Invalid votes are invalid votes. There's a process. You put it on the agenda, you give people the 48 hours notice required, then you take the vote. You don't disrespect the public by taking illegal votes and then ramming your opinion down on the public. There's a way to do it properly. This board is obviously not operating in a proper manner. And, I think the email,
Madam Chair, I have to take
speaking.
exception to this
The
gentleman.
email
I have
that
to
will
take
come
exception.
later from the public records request will probably show that there are more violations and more complaints will have to be filed. So, the purpose of open meeting law is to put the board on notice, to see corrective actions taken to stop the behavior. And the thing that I'll say for myself, having filed many of these complaints, is the refusal to acknowledge the conduct and stop the behavior is concerning, because this should have stopped months ago. And, you know, it's still continuing. And now I'm getting some emails, and I'm learning more about what was actually going on that I didn't know as part of the public. So I would hope the board will take these complaints seriously and put corrective steps in place. That's what I'd like to see. And in the meantime, you know, get rid of these illegal votes, schedule them and take them again. That's a simple process. Council has recommended it before. That's what should be happening, and I hope you will make that happen and we can all save time. I was just at the Board of Selectmen's meeting. Prior Chair Magani was found to have violated open meeting law, and he was very defensive. You know, the new chair, Carl, did essentially the exact same thing using group email to the full board. They denied he did it. Now they have a decision by the AG on Mr. Magani, and yet they still are unwilling to admit that Carl did the exact same thing, and they're just trying to defend the position. So I would hope this board would be more proactive in the process, acknowledge the conduct, fix it, and move on. The example down the hall here is not a very good one. Anyway, that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Okay, after speaking with the town attorney yesterday, it was her suggestion that we bring all the open meeting law complaints so that she could be here and go over them with us to solve the problem.
That's great.
Okay,
Thank you.
so that is scheduled for next week,
Okay.
next Tuesday. So that is why it's on here as a review of them, because that's gonna be postponed until next week.
Madam
John, you
Chair.
had a comment?
Yeah, if I could, please. You
Yes.
know, and Mr. Morgan, I thoroughly respect conceptually what you're trying to do, but when you sit there and say there are illegal votes, no judgment's been made on that yet. And that's what I take exception to. You might be right, and shame on us, and shame on anybody else who does it. But you know, where I get frustrated, Mr. Morgan, is you do a public records request today and request emails. You didn't get those emails through a public records request. You got those emails from another board member, which is fine. I have no problem with that. But I think you're making gross assumptions, and as you and I have talked about for years, I applaud the fact that you want clean government, because I do too. But you know, talk to us. Have a conversation with us. Give us an opportunity to be human, number one. Second, to be devoted volunteers. And third, learn from our mistakes. What you do with these open meeting law violations, in my opinion, does not help the town.
Right.
It only puts us against you. You seem like a good guy, and I think your heart's in the right place, but why can't you just pick up the phone and call us and work with us? Why does this have to become so adversarial? And I'm just wondering.
You know, I don't find it to be adversarial. I've been going to your meetings now for over a year. I wasn't really going to your meetings. I was much more interested in financial issues in the town. And, you know, in a year's time, you know, it has been repeatedly the same things over and over again. And, you know, it's not that you can say that I haven't reached out to the board. I have appeared in front of this board asking the board to acknowledge its conduct, to put corrective action in place, and to stop the conduct over and over again. And it hasn't happened. And, you know, I understand people get frustrated. I understand people break rules all the time. But, you know, rule breaking has consequences. And in the last decision by the AG's office, they made it pretty clear that you were on as thin ice as it can be after, you know, what was it, 4 or 5 decisions now against you. And, you know, my goal, well, read the language there.
I have read the language.
Please stop interrupting.
Quite extensively.
And so, you know, if you want to play it out that way, I mean, I think that's not constructive. You know, the goal of this whole process is to be introspective, acknowledge mistakes, and improve. You know,
And
this is a continuous
we
improvement
acknowledge
process.
the fact that we were.
Please stop interrupting.
Excuse me, please. I'm having a conversation.
Yeah.
Please, thank you.
You're the one that's interrupting. Please
We did
stop.
acknowledge our mistake, and candidly, I was quoted in the Metro West Daily News by the reporter that's in the room here that this board was irresponsible in approving minutes. That's the only thing that this board has been found violation of in the last year that you speak of. So we did acknowledge those mistakes. If mistakes come down in the future, under the leadership of Mary, I'm thoroughly convinced that we will have corrective actions. But what I'm saying to you is, work with us. Don't be an adversary.
So
Don't be an adversary.
I'm
when you
not
file
an
an open
adversary.
meeting complaint against us, it's human nature that there's going to be, you know, adversarial relationship. You might be right. there's probably a good chance that some of your stuff is going to be found to have merit. But what does the town benefit from you doing this? What's the outcome?
Well-
Aha? Or can we do better government? And I think that's really what you want to do, is better government, right?
Again, I can't make decisions for the board, John.
But you
And-
are making
and
decisions.
No, I can only look at it from my point of view. I've asked the board to be proactive and put documents out in advance of the meeting. I've asked the board to put documents in its minutes. I've asked the board to stop certain conduct. You know, I've now had to file 3 complaints in a row, including one of the more recent ones, about illegal votes being taken off agenda. And, you know,
In
why,
your opinion,
well,
illegal votes.
again,
Not found to have
I'm not
merit yet.
making this stuff up. I've
Those-
taken the time to
You have to
read
be
the
careful how you
decisions.
say that.
I've taken the time to read the decisions. You know, a year ago, the town manager was attacking me in the newspaper along with the Board of Selectmen, accusing me of wasting money on the town, and I didn't know what I was talking about. And unfortunately for them, about 2/3 of the things I've filed have been found to have merit. And, you know, the ones that haven't been have been maybe on the more gray area. But it's not that these are frivolous complaints and they're not thought through.
I haven't used the word frivolous this evening.
Well, others in the town have, so
But
I would
but
like
you're
a
painting-
positive.
We're not, there's no
Yeah.
selectmen in this room. There's a former selectman in this room, but there's
Okay.
no selectmen in this room. So don't paint us with that brush is what I'm asking.
I'm talking about this board. This board has had more complaints than any other board in town.
And
In what span of time?
majority of them have been from you, so
That's
so I don't
correct.
think you're hearing what I'm saying. I totally respect what you're doing, but I question the effectiveness of it. That's all I'm at. That's all I'm
I guess at some point when you start getting fined, maybe it'll be effective, or maybe it still won't be effective. But, you know, admit your conduct, fix it, put a continuous improvement process in place, and we won't have to keep talking about the same thing over and over again. I don't like doing the same complaint over and over again. The third time is, you know, this isn't baseball, but, you know, by the time you've had the third shot at an illegal vote on an agenda, because you haven't put it on an agenda and you've
Once
taken
again,
it anyway.
your opinion, no
Okay.
fact yet.
We'll wait
So-
the 10 months and the AG will decide.
Okay, but but until then, it's not an illegal vote.
I guess,
It's your
I guess
opinion that you didn't like it,
you
you
will have
didn't
to-
like the outcome
You
of
will
it,
have to
yes.
introspectively decide what excuse you will use for taking votes that were not on the agenda.
And you don't think that comment right there is adversarial?
I'm open to hear what you come up with. I've looked at these council responses. This has been a topic the board has discussed. Council looks for all kinds of excuses to deny conduct that is obviously occurring. And the council's been wrong for 2/3 of her denials. That's how the AG's found in my favor, because council is acting like a criminal defense lawyer, looking for every little excuse instead of being proactive and responsive to come up with new, improved process. You know,
And could I just have one more comment, and then because like I said, I
yeah,
don't want to
it's
argue with
your-
you.
it's your board,
Just one
yeah.
more. In all of these complaints that you've had the town look into and town council vet it, investigate, how has it made government better in this town?
Well, I like to think that there are certain boards which are taking the time to put their documents on the back of their minutes. There are certain boards who are being more in compliance with the open meeting law. I thought this board was one of those in some respects based on prior complaints. And the idea that you just aren't happy and are putting votes out that aren't on the agenda and ignoring the fact that you know it's incorrect demonstrates, I think, a lack of introspective thinking toward what's there. There's easy options to do what you want to do if you just do it the right way.
I think we should table that for now and bring it up next week when the
Fine.
attorney is
Madam
here,
Chair,
so that we can chat about it.
I had asked for time to talk about this, so if you're tabling now, you can't talk about it, is that okay?
Make it quick, KJ, because we've got
I
a large
understand
agenda.
that the same word to be used for others also, so I should also get the same amount of time if I need to, but anyway, make it quick. Having read the open meeting law guideline, I think there is 2 levels of process. One, the complainant produces a complaint, and then that needs to be resolved within the system here. And if it gets resolved, then it doesn't go to the second level unless
Correct.
the complainant appeals for it or challenges it. So if things can be sorted out within our system rather than escalating further, I would rather see that it is resolved within us if it can be. Yeah, that's what I meant. Rather than heading up to a higher level of transaction with the AG's office or with the town council involving. If it's a simple matter that we need to adhere to, we need to adhere to and then move on. So that would save a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
Especially
But
with
isn't that just common sense, though, KJ? I mean,
it should be common sense for
what's the point
everybody.
then?
It should be common sense for everybody, not just only for the complainant or particular member. It should be for everyone.
And I think it is.
That's
I think
fine.
we all
Then-
feel that way.
yeah. Then that's good.
That was gonna be my question, is you don't feel that that is?
I don't have to answer this question, and I don't have an answer for this question, whether my feeling is this or that, that's different.
Okay.
But I want
So
to
the
express
next-
my views on it.
The next thing on our agenda is the policies, procedures, which we are also going to table and bring up with the attorney next week when she is here. Because those have been vetted through the state and were approved.
Mary, what I recommend is that you ask for a vote to table
You do wanna
both of those
speak?
items.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if
I'll make-
there are still
May I have
individuals here who wish to speak, I
Oh,
understand.
I didn't know we were.
Go
I
ahead,
didn't
Judy.
know, sorry.
I
Oh,
understand
go
that
ahead.
there
I'm
are
sorry.
still individuals here that wish to
Yes,
speak.
so I participated in last meeting, and during the meeting we discussed that the board is going to look into the having a study, environmental study about the bus parking lot. The 69 buses being parked in the parking lot, and all the diesel fumes and the diesel leaking in the parking lot. Is there any update on that, like where we stand about the study, or did we figure out something?
It's not on the agenda, but I don't know how far we go with citizens. It's dependent, if we want to.
I think
Take
Conley
it in.
Conley bus is
It
in
should have
there.
come up with
Yeah.
citizens'
Yeah.
participation, but
You
5Q.
can't
We can-
discuss it.
Yeah,
Five
as long as you feel.
we can make an exception
We
to,
shouldn't.
Yeah, it might cause an open meeting law violation.
Yeah, that's what
against
I'm
all
wondering,
the-
Mary.
well, it's up
Maybe
to
we-
you on
5Q.
here.
You can only hear them out.
It's on here at,
Yeah, that's a reiteration of
That's why I
what
was
said.
asking what the clarification is of those items.
Madam Chair, I can give an update because I've talked to the property owners and.
Those
and
items are not clear.
Um,
I don't
It
What
have
I-
was
Yeah,
brought up
John.
for citizens' participation.
for
Yeah.
clarification.
And sir, if I could, I don't like talking to somebody I can't say hi, how are you?
I am
If
doing
you want to just step into the room
Sure.
a little bit so we can have a little bit of a conversation. 2 meetings ago of this board, it was agreed upon that I would be tasked with setting up potentially, and I want to use the word potentially, a meeting with the abutters and the property owners. I am told, and I don't know, don't quote me on this, but I am told that the Conley Bus Company is now the official owner of the bus lot, and that item closed last week. And I don't know if it's you, so I'm not saying it's you, but some of your abutters have filed a ZBA appeal to the process. The property owner and their counsel do not feel comfortable having a meeting with the abutters now while it is under the appeal process. I can also tell you that we've reached out to a couple of government agencies, and maybe Mark can give you a little bit more, and they've been hesitant to come out and do a site review while it's also under ZBA approval. And that's probably the most generic update I can give you without breaking open meeting rules.
Okay, and then what about all the current violation that's happening on there? Whom should we talk?
What current violation?
They shouldn't be parking buses without implementing everything that they agreed upon, that when they start using the lot, they should take certain steps or do certain improvements to the parking lots.
Well, sir,
No sanitary toilets.
I can just tell you that I hear your concerns and I can appreciate your concerns, but when you say they're committing violations, we have no documentation that they've committed any violations. And this board can't act on emotion, we can only act on fact. We don't have any violations.
So regarding the documentation, I did submitted the pictures about the diesel leaks that happened on the property.
You
So
submitted those pictures to who?
to this committee,
To what committee? This
to
committee?
Board of Health committee.
No. We submitted to
No.
Concom, and then I did
Con-
tell you to take a copy from there.
Concom and then.
Yeah.
And I did
Went to
inform you
Concom.
that you're supposed to take a copy from Megan Walters.
Right, so I
It
don't,
was in a flash drive that you brought.
What is the date of that?
Right, but that's not.
I don't exactly remember the date,
Was
but
it yesterday?
no,
No,
it
no.
wasn't yesterday. It was 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
August. I was at the meeting.
Megan's coming back next week.
Okay.
I can
Tomorrow.
go out tomorrow with her if it's tomorrow, that's great. See, do you, I'll check my email to see. Megan has pictures too.
She has the whole
Then I'll
flash
look at
drive.
it.
I submitted a pen drive and hard copy pictures.
Because obviously if they're intentionally leaking, you know, if it's a spill, they're supposed to do a proper cleanup, so we'll look into it.
I don't know if it's intentional or it's a spill. That's I'm
Is it
not the one to
Well,
decide
look at
that one.
Yeah, we can talk tomorrow. because I gotta see how the amount, how much, is it a stain, is it a spill? We'll talk tomorrow.
All right.
But
Do
the
you have
board
Mark's
is in
contact
session
information?
now, why would we
Give your
delay a
Mark.
discussion till tomorrow?
It's not on the agenda.
Well, it is under
It's
Q.
not, Madam Chair, I'll get to that. Patience is a virtue is all I can say.
And the second thing I want to bring up is the buses are starting at 5:15 in the morning, and that's creating a lot of noise at that early. The buses shouldn't be starting that early. I'm not sure why the bus starts at 5:15, 5:20 in the morning. We are getting a lot of noise disturbance because of that.
Can I just ask a clarification? When you say they shouldn't be, based on what?
Based on the permit that they got.
And what is the permit then?
That
To the
you
best
guys
of
have
your
to
ability.
decide, figure out.
Well, see, that's to
It's
the
not
point.
us
though.
guys.
It's not us guys
It's not
again.
us.
It's not us guys again.
So
It's a ZBA
we are
permit.
getting a noise
Well,
disturbance. Who is
no.
responsible for that? Is it the
Noise.
Board of Health?
Excess
Noise-
noise is the health issue,
noise-
pollution, noise pollution, and that does belong to us. And then,
Police department in this town.
yes, that if
No.
you go to the state site, it
You
says,
can check with your bylaws. Again, we shouldn't be discussing this in detail. Call me tomorrow. If you don't have my name and number, it's Mark Oram, Board of Health. You can get right to me and we'll talk. This isn't on the agenda for discussion. It came up as citizens.
I think
But I
it
can go
is
over
a
it.
agenda. It's a
No,
neighborhood
that's a
complaints.
reiteration of a,
let's
it's a
be,
let me finish, please.
Sure.
That's a reiteration of an agenda. I'm only gonna be speaking of the minutes that were produced from that meeting to make sure
Okay.
we're in compliance with an open meeting law. So if you were confused by the review, it's a review of the agenda items as it states in that
Sure.
report. I'm rehearsing basically the minutes,
Sure.
not going any further, no less, but you have the opportunity, especially if Megan's coming back tomorrow, to
Okay.
have both of us involved. Just give us a call.
Sure.
Megan's the conservation officer.
All right.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes, John.
just a recommendation for you, sir, and like I said earlier, I hear you and I feel for you. And I can only give you this as experience with the town. The Board of Selectmen
Mhm.
want the lot next to you to be a bus lot. That's their decision. Just hear me out,
Okay.
because you'll hear what I'm saying if you give me the opportunity to speak. The Board of Selectmen want that to be a bus lot. The Board of Selectmen said that needs to be a bus lot. The ZBA approved a permit to uphold that, and it's now under appeal. You're coming to us, and unless there is something that we can prove, and the key word is prove, as a public health, your time might be better spent talking to the selectmen and or the ZBA. We will act, and the agent has already said tonight that he will act, and if he finds them at violation, trust me, he will hold them accountable. What I can give you is advice as a resident. You're talking to the wrong, not that we won't react and we will hold people accountable. Please know that. We can't fix this problem for you. You're talking to the wrong board. You need to talk to the ZBA and the selectmen. And if they don't talk to you and they're all good people and they're not doing it, then you're gonna have to escalate. But we can never fix this problem for you. We can only hold them accountable for health violations. That's not what
And
you're
that's
looking for.
exactly
That's
what
not
I
what you're
want.
looking for.
That's exactly what I want from this board. I don't want this board to fix the entire issue. I do not want that.
Okay.
And this is not even jurisdiction of this board as well. And I really appreciate that you're being real honest that and telling me that Board of Selectmen want that lot to be a parking lot. It's
We
not.
wouldn't be here if they didn't, yes.
It's not a board of, so because the Board of Selectmen wants that, that's why the board of ZBA has approved it. It's not based on a fact.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I'd like to think they're an objective board, but they can only rule on what's in front of them. But how long have you lived at the property?
2 years.
2 years. So it was a bus lot before you moved there.
No, the
Yes,
one,
it was.
the one behind me wasn't a bus lot.
Okay. But you abutted a bus lot. Is that a fair statement?
Now it is being converted into a bus lot. It wasn't a bus lot.
Okay. Mark will go out and he'll address any health issue.
But that has been a parking lot since Jesus was a teenager. I mean, since GE.
Why
was-
would you say that?
Because that,
Because
No,
of that.
I have a
it
neighbor.
had been.
No, I'm telling you, I have a neighbor. That lot is converted into the bus parking lot 20 years ago. The guy lived there since he was a kid. He's 60 plus year old now.
Mhm.
When it was a residence, then it was converted into the employee parking only. Now you are telling
No.
that
No, that's not.
That parking lot was for employees of GE.
For example.
since when?
In the
Oh,
40s.
what? In the 40s,
Certainly
50s,
Yes,
30s,
60s?
40s.
no, not 30s, not even 40s. Now you are directing this conversation to all totally wrong direction.
No.
I'm not bringing this point since when it is parking
The
lot or
most
not.
famous resident of this town, Henry Warren. That was his park. He made that an employee parking lot for his employees.
Yeah, my neighbor
Madam Chair.
Ray, he lived there since he was a kid, and he also addressed this same. He also mentioned the same thing in the ZBA that it was converted into the employee parking lot when probably around 50s or 60s, and later on the buses started coming in 20 years ago.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Let's look at the other side where there were companies here which created environmental hazard. People were living here. Does it mean that we didn't act on it? The board took actions, and the Nyans are like that.
understand that.
You don't expect somebody to suffer through for longer than what they need to be.
No, I
If
don't.
there is an issue, one needs to discover it, check it out, and if the noise is not that great, then tell them it is not measured, it is not below the measurement levels, and tell them that is it. But we don't provide that facility. If the smoke is high, check it out and see whether there is enough chemical that affects them, then do it. That's the action they need to take.
That's
If
exactly what I
they're
want.
being bounced off between two boards, the Board of Health and
Yeah.
Selectmen, they're not ping pong ball, they're human beings, come on.
But we need to start with going out there and investigating
Sure.
and finding if there,
Right.
if and what the
Facts.
problem
Yeah,
is.
let me ask you a question. Has there been complaints lodged with the police department? Have people called to the police department for the noise?
Should I call the police department in the 5 in the morning?
Yes.
Sir,
Yeah,
I've said
wait a
in
minute.
multiple
Have you-
meetings
have
that
you
I know
every
that
day?
you and your neighbors
should
have
I call
done
every
every
day?
too.
Give me a second,
Yes,
please.
yes.
Give me a
And
second.
document it because they may not put it in their records.
Have you guys called?
Well, can I step in?
Please.
My name is Enrique Araya. I live in 7 Columbus Avenue. We had a problem with, right before school started.
I apologize, Madam Chair, there is another person who's indicated she's questioning whether there's actually a meeting in this room. I don't believe she can see back there.
What we can do, Mayor, is we can adjourn, recess and move that piece of the court that maybe open the door and let people sit here.
You can move here in the corner and you can come here if you want.
No, we don't wanna have
Is that what I
you,
mean?
not, if you wanna be there, then we can move things around if we need to. We can take.
Well, we can definitely stand here to give a little bit more room to the room.
Come on.
Yeah, but if that's limited, the number of people, then we don't want to be causing some.
I'm sure if we allowed the people to come in and speak, then it's gonna be just fine.
70.
For the record, I am concerned about the fire
What's the square footage
limitations
that
on
you-
this room.
Well, here's what we can do. I think Ron and I could, Ron, if you agree, we can kind of step out and hear the meeting, but not leave the meeting, so other people can be heard. So please, step, come on in.
Thank you,
Ben,
John.
you wanna?
Thank you.
Yeah, please. Yep. We're still in the room. We just can't be. We're not at the table.
Actually, sit down if you
Yeah,
like.
please.
Okay,
Welcome.
we're moving on to review
No,
of the
I
tour.
thought you were hearing them.
They're here to speak.
We've heard them. We've suggested that they contact the police department.
All right, I
When
just
there
have,
is a problem.
I just have one question.
Yes,
Well, actually, it's more like a statement. My daughter almost had a car accident right before school started. One of the buses was going across the two parking lots. She called the police. The police told her to call the supervisor from Hopkinton, because that was a Hopkinton bus. I thought the police was here to serve and protect, not to pass their word to somebody else. What I want to know is, who do we call?
I totally sympathize with you, but we are not the police. They're the ones that take care of the traffic.
The question is, who do we call? That's my question.
The police,
The police
police.
department.
And the police doesn't want to do anything about it.
the chief.
Then you keep calling them and you make sure that they're paying attention.
Has there been calls about the noise and the smoke? Have there been calls made to the police?
But
That's
also
what we
with the
want to know.
traffic problem.
That's a traffic problem,
I
right?
understand, but this is the basic question, that the noise and the
But
air
who's
pollution
talking-
is the one. I understand, that is much serious safety, I understand.
Aisle here.
But
Sure there is.
no, we have no control over that, but
Right.
this we have control over the
So the
noise
noise
and the
and the
smoke.
smoke.
We
Sir,
have
if I
control over
So
it.
Could I
we'll
offer a
get someone out
suggestion?
there tomorrow.
Hypothetically, 3 o'clock this morning, you're hearing noise over there. You call the police department, okay? then later in the day, and you shouldn't have to do this, but you can do it. Any call to the police department is recorded
Right.
in its public record. It's also documented in a log. You can then go after, and I hate to do this to you, but sometimes you have to do this to make it known.
Mhm.
Chief, I called 4 nights in a row at 5:35. Your officers aren't responding. That's the chief's job to respond to you then. The chief works for you. He works for all of us in this room. Okay? One time off, he might send an officer and there might not anything. But if you're telling me that this happens every single day, and I've said this for years to people in this town, you're not bothering the police. You're not harassing the police. You're not harassing the bus owners. You pay taxes in this town. You're entitled to that benefit.
Right.
It is your job kind of to do it. And you also then can have a case to go to the chief. Hey chief, I called you 4 times. Your officers didn't do anything about it. Then the chief's accountable to you. That's what you have to do. You're not bothering the police. Unfortunately, you have to do it, but you're going to help your neighborhood if you do that. If somebody who is in a butter to this neighborhood does it, that's their job. And I tell people all the time, bother the police, and I use that as in quotes, because you're not bothering them.
Right.
They're here to protect and
That's
serve
their job.
the residents of Ashland. That's their job.
That's what they're supposed to, but I guess in this case, it didn't work out the way.
Well, you know what,
it should have
sir? And
been.
then if they don't do that, and hey, listen, I have full faith and confidence in the Ashland Police Department. We have a great police department, and we have a great chief in Chief Davis. But if he doesn't do that, Michael Herbert is the chief's boss. Michael Herbert is the town manager. The town manager in this town is the police commissioner. If the chief is not responding to you, which
Yeah.
I know he will,
He is
if
not.
he does,
Michael Herbert is not. We discussed this in the charter review committee. He is not.
Okay.
He gave up his commissionership. He did not.
Okay.
So don't give them a false information.
I'm not giving him false
No,
information
Michael
because you
Herbert
haven't
is not.
changed the charter yet,
There's a lot of
KJ.
It doesn't matter.
You haven't changed the charter
Michael
yet.
Herbert did not take his commissionership. He refused.
Can
to
I
do
finish
that. Okay,
speaking
he's
now?
not a
Because I'm
commissioner.
talking to the resident, not arguing with you.
It doesn't matter, but I know the fact. I'd rather tell you the
If the
truth.
chief doesn't respond to you, then you go
You
to the
can go to
town
manager, that's fine, but he's not the commissioner.
Thank you. You're wrong.
All right. That's where it stands. They'll be out there tomorrow. Call the police department, harass them, and get them out there.
All right, if they're gonna go to
They're gonna go
the,
out there tomorrow.
yeah, they may not find anything in the ground because with all the rain, everything there falls from the trucks, the
But there's still a sheen that would show up from diesel.
The other things is the noise. If you make a complaint to them, they're supposed to come down and verify it, check it out. And also the smoke issue, that's the thing that you need to complain to them. Once you complain to them, come here. I'm sure Mark Oram is the health department guy. He's supposed to be working with the police department to manage the result out of it, to make sure that you're all healthy and safely protected.
All right, and I just want to make a quick statement. I want to congratulate you, and I'm hoping that things will get better now.
Thank you.
We've been dealing with this problem in the neighborhood for a long time, and we're hoping that you guys get together and resolve this problem, please, because it's just...
We can only do our part.
I know that. But like the lady who was here in the last meeting said, you guys have more power when it comes to the health of the citizens than anybody else or any other
But we
boards
also
here
have
in
to
town.
follow the rules.
Yes, I understand that.
Okay. So
Thank you.
We will do whatever we can to help you, but we've got to go by the rules.
Thank you.
Okay?
Will this item be placed on our next agenda?
That's at the bottom of the agenda,
It's on
Madam
the-
Chair, to discuss
Yeah.
next agenda items.
Yeah. When we get down to the next agenda items, we will discuss it. Okay.
Well, I
We're
was
just not
hoping
ready
that
to
while,
make
I was hoping while the interested parties are here,
Well,
we
it's
could-
also
we could
being
inf-
taped, so they'll be able to catch it.
we could inform
on
them.
WACA,
And they're welcome to call me if they want to.
and they're
Well,
welcome to
thank you,
call
Mark.
Mark.
You're welcome.
So Mark is gonna be coordinating the agenda, is
No,
that?
they're welcome
Who
to
said
call
that?
me.
Nobody said that.
Sorry.
Well, let me
It's very
reiterate.
uncomfortable with John Featherston standing
Okay,
right
well,
behind
Oh,
me.
it's
Is there
very
any way?
uncomfortable to be
Is
sitting
there,
next
is
to
there
Judy
any,
Margulies.
is there any way that we can rearrange this room so there's not an
Oh,
aisle
there's an
full of
empty chair over
people?
here in the corner.
There's an aisle full of people here and it appears that the room is
Oh,
thank you, buddy.
split where people can't actively participate.
Okay.
Does anyone want me to read, Madam Chair,
Go
and go
ahead.
through? Would you like me to rearrange the room the best I can? It's up to the people in the
Is it-
room. Would
You want to take a
like-
recess and move the copier out?
Yeah, we can do
Yeah.
that if that's.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn for 5 minutes to reconfigure the room.
Wait a minute. Don't adjourn. Adjourn means stop.
Recess.
Recess.
Recess. So let's use the proper language, otherwise it'll be a problem.
Recess for 5 minutes.
It's gonna hurt
We
the
need to
end
take
of
a
the meeting
vote on
this
it.
time, though.
If you guys would
All those in favor
mind
of recessing?
helping move this out,
We didn't take a vote to
No, you
recess.
just wanna take
This
it.
is just it.
Just, well, you should just ask who's.
It's,
Who's second?
Can I have a motion to recess for 5 minutes?
motion to recess for 5 minutes.
A second.
Second, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion's motion's carried.
Chair,
Yeah.
because you and I are on the same conversation with
Absolutely.
our town attorney, is that the recommendation would be to call for a vote to table vote 3 and 4 per her request. Her name is Kate Federoff, attorney Kate Federoff. So I'd recommend that to the chair, what you do is your
Okay.
decision, but that's.
Can I have a motion to that effect?
We'll make a motion that we table both all the open meeting law complaints and the Board of Health's policies and procedures until next Tuesday's meeting, which would be the 26th of September, so we can review with town council at that time.
And just a point of order, do you want to vote to have that meeting? Oh, that's the chair's decision.
No, that's the chair.
I'll second that.
Okay, any conversation? Any discussion?
That'd be not the third September, would you say?
No, it's the 4th. It was what worked for our town attorney.
Does it work for you?
Does it work for me? Yeah,
The fourth Tuesday?
The 26th is a Tuesday.
26 is
The
a
26th does not work for me.
We'll see you next time.
It was our town attorney's suggestion.
Right. And we were able to get I believe
BC room.
the B and C room, which will be televised.
Oh, we're televising meetings downstairs now? Could you clarify
do you mean
what the
now?
how,
We've done it
how that
It's been
works?
done numerous times,
There's a vote on it.
but there will be coverage. We have a motion on the floor, a second.
I ask the chair to call the vote.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
4-1.
Okay, Madam Chair, just on item
I
number.
just wanted to make sure that the minutes will reflect my objections in terms
Yeah,
of
I
the words.
Yes, they
noticed.
will.
In terms of the words that I spoke about my lack of availability.
Madam Chair, if I may, item number 5. It's the review of the July 11, 2017 meeting, and I know you know because we reviewed the
Right.
agenda. Items to be rediscussed to resolve open meeting law complaint. This is a reiteration, and what I'm planning to do, if the board is understanding of it, is to read the minutes that were generated from my report that night, so that it will be part of what was done on July 11th. It's a reiteration only. It doesn't open up any of these for discussion because they're not listed on the agenda in any, I don't know how to call it, but an active section of the agenda versus a reiteration. I
Right.
called it live, but this is just a reiteration. So it was noted by our town attorney that I basically go through the minutes. And if the board so wishes, I'd be glad to do that.
Yes, please.
The item that I was supposed to speak on, the item, then how would I?
It'd be another agenda. You know, we have item number 9 is where you place next agenda items. There could be discussion on what needs to be placed on the next agenda.
You weren't at this meeting, were you, KJ?
I understand that somebody
Well, how would
else-
you speak on
somebody
something if
else-
you weren't in
some-
attendance?
Somebody else spoke on my behalf.
Who?
Spoke on behalf on the food inspection application.
I don't remember that being the case.
Oh, I do remember very well.
If you weren't there, how could you remember
But then go back and look at the tape, isn't it?
it? If you weren't
you
there,
look
how
at
can you remember it? I'm just asking for clarification on that.
Because
If
I
you
wanted-
weren't there, how could you remember it?
I remember the words that he spoke on the tape. I went to the WACA tape and watched it.
Okay, that's all I'm asking. But
Yeah, I
it
mean,
seems-
that should be
seems like
obvious,
a-
John, for you. Come on, you have
No,
that
it doesn't
intelligence.
seem obvious. You're
Yeah,
well,
one is
no,
able to-
Shenanigans aren't obvious to me.
Madam Chair?
Okay,
I
can
have
you
a
please stop
question.
and go?
I have a question,
with,
Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I have a question.
Excuse me, I'm
I have a
speaking.
question.
We want to proceed and have Mark read the information from that meeting so that we are not leaving anything to be undiscovered. If you would proceed, Mark?
Yes.
I have a
Chair.
question concerning
Chair,
your,
Health Agents.
concerning your determination to have him proceed with reading that. If I may ask the question, please?
Go ahead.
The question is, is this the expectation that by him reading minutes that were provided via his office, going to satisfy the Division of Open Government concerning what occurred during that meeting? I was not in attendance because of the appearance of what had been said downstairs, which disallowed my understanding that there even was a meeting going on upstairs. And since I have not fully listened to that tape of the meeting, I am concerned that by just reading a synopsis will not give all 5 members to participate fully in what the content of the meeting was. I just want that to be a question. If you believe that going forward with this will satisfy the open meeting law, I just want to express my objection to having this method because I suspect it will not satisfy it.
Madam Chair?
Yes, John.
If I may, the former chair seems, and my esteemed colleague on the board seems to be having an amnesia moment because town council
Excuse me,
recommended-
point of order, there was a
Recommended-
personal attack.
No, it wasn't
There was
personal.
just a personal attack.
Okay.
There was a personal
Town council
attack.
recommended this.
There was a
motion to
personal
her
attack,
when she
Madam
was the
Chair. I'm
chair.
requesting
She
that
chose to
you,
ignore it, in my
that
opinion.
you
So I
instruct,
would ask that Mark
that
go
you
ahead with
instruct
his
Mr. Featherston
Okay, you go ahead.
to
Go
abstain
ahead,
from
Mark.
personal attacks.
Excuse me, Judith, you're interrupting.
I have one question.
No.
if you don't mind.
We're listening to Mark.
I understand, you're listening to Mark.
We're
but the
listening to
question
Mark
is-
Mark, please go
now.
ahead.
Question is there a discussion that happens or no discussion happens? These
If I can clear.
members get to, the citizens get to participate in the discussion in
No,
terms
this
of.
is a reiteration.
It's a
strictly.
reiteration. Strictly what happened.
But just to leave a little bit open, our town attorney will be at our next meeting. And if there's any question to it, we can ask her at the time. I can call her tomorrow. So if I may, Madam Chair, may I
Yes, go
start the
ahead,
read
please.
without any interruption? Thank you. So this is my health agent's report from the meeting of July 11, 2017. If you cannot hear me, I'll speak up. I don't want to speak too loud. You're okay back? I just want to make sure. I, Mr. Oram, updated the Board of Health on the status of the RTD apartment complex, noting that Building 1 has been signed off on by the various departments and is now occupied. I also, Mr. Oram, explained that the sub-metering is being used in the buildings. This requires water conservation devices to be installed in the units by a licensed plumber and inspected by the plumbing inspector, and then signed off by the health department. Tenants will be required to pay their own water and sewer service cost. Rail Transit District Apartments irrigation well request. I, Mr. Oram, explained that the developer has requested to meet with the board to request a permit for a second well. High levels of manganese are still being detected at the first well site. Members agreed Thorndike Development should come in at 7:10 p.m. on July 25th, in parentheses, it wasn't there, 2017, prior to the House Street former landfill public discussion. Mr. Oram noted they are currently irrigating with town water. Item that is labeled Rail Transit District Apartments, Pool, Clubhouse. Discussion ensued regarding the status of the pending applications for a pool and the clubhouse at the RTD apartment complex. Mr. Oram noted the clubhouse is connected to the sewer pipes and those have to be replaced due to issues with the pipes. DPW is having the developer replace the piping. Discussion continued regarding the location of the pipes. Next item, landfill meeting with landfill consultant and management. Mr. Oram explained to the board that a meeting is scheduled for July 13, 2017 with himself, management, ATC Group Services, the town consultant, in parentheses, and EnviroTrack, the contractor, in parentheses, regarding the gas permeation well installation being installed by EnviroTrack. Discussion continued regarding EnviroTrack's qualifications. Mr. Oram noted they were highly recommended. Discussion continued regarding the contract and the Board of Health's jurisdiction, as well as the use of the wells versus a trench per DEP's recommendation. Mr. Featherston made a motion to follow DEP's advisement on this. Mrs. Mortensen seconded the motion. The motion was approved 3-0. Cadillac Paint, next item. Mr. Oram told the board that he has been asked by management to look into grants acquired over the years and other information in order to obtain a grant through mass development. Mr. Featherston stated that the neighbors have been patient and should be contacted with any new information. Mr. Oram noted that the intern has chosen Cadillac Paint as his internship project. Mr. Oram said, we have received a couple of phone calls regarding fumes in the area and we are working on it. Next item, intern. Mr. Orm explained that intern Stephen Hines is in a Masters of Public Health program at UMass Amherst, and in addition to the Cadillac Paint Project, he is also working on a mini project on opioid abuse with Kristen French, working with local pharmacies. He is also taking on a semicolon. He is also working on taking online courses while in the office and then review what he has learned. Next subject, report of improper use of rooming house. Mr. Orm said a complaint was received from a person living in a rooming house at 262 Union Street. Mr. Orm explained he is working with the fire and building departments and have informed the caretaker of the home as the owner lives abroad. Mr. Orm noted that the buildings do not have appropriate fire protection equipment and is not up to code. Next item, harm reduction workshop. Mr. Orm said he attended a workshop and conference regarding the stigma of opioid abuse through the Massachusetts Opioid Abuse Prevention Collaborative. Mr. Orm said he is glad the town joined in this collaboration. Next item, Corner Spot update. Mr. Orm noted that the Corner Spot is running smoothly, adding that he and Tom Curran, the food inspector, Curran is not in these, but it's Tom Curran, have conducted multiple inspections. Mr. Orm explained how revolving funds work for the food service program. Mr. Orm said grease traps have been installed at Tasty Treat and believes it should be open in 30 to 60 days. Next item, emergency coverage. Mr. Orm explained that he has spoken to the assistant town manager regarding coverage while he is out. She informed him that he can look for coverage in the same way as the building inspector. Mr. Orm would like to find someone before he goes on vacation at the end of the month. Mr. Featherston made a motion to draft a letter to management that we need vacation coverage. Mr. Escovitch seconded the motion. The motion was approved 3-0. Mr. Escovitch offered to help Mr. Orm thank the board members. And Mr. Orm thanked the board members. Next item, shingles vaccine. Mr. Orm noted it's good to know that we're able to help some residents get vaccinated from shingles. Kitty Mahoney of the Framingham Board of Health offered Ashline extra doses of the vaccine. Nancy Cleary, she's a nurse, was able to hold a shingles clinic and vaccinate 18 residents. I did ad lib, she's a nurse. Mr. Featherston suggested a motion to have Laura send a thank you note to Framingham for the extra doses of vaccine, and would also like to acknowledge Nancy for her work. Mrs. Mortensen made a motion that Laura draft a letter to Framingham thanking them for their assistance with the vaccine. Mr. Escovitch seconded the motion. The motion was approved 3-0. Next item, vacation. Mr. Orm noted that he will be out of the state over the weekend of July 21st, but will be back in the office Monday morning, July 24th. Mr. Orm said he would also be out from July 28th to August 13th, but would be in the office on Saturday, August 5th. That was the end of my report. Now, there's more to these minutes that were discussed at the meeting. And, Madam Chair, it's up to you if you'd like
Yes,
me to
please go ahead.
finalize the report. Okay, response to the Division of Open Government letter dated June 19, 2017. Mr. Escovitz updated Mr. Featherston and Mrs. Mortensen on what occurred during the earlier portion of the meeting prior to Mr. Featherston and Mrs. Mortensen arriving, informing them that he and Mr. Nariana would be following up with the Attorney General's office on their response. The board discussed why the Division of Open Government received three responses, and that is 3. Scheduling of the Board of Health participation at the farmers market. Mr. Featherston said he is not typically available on Saturdays. Mr. Orm said he would introduce Mr. Escovitch to the chair of the Medical Reserve Corps, adding that they will have a booth and provide blood pressure checks. And this is a review of acceptance of minute meetings is the next item, June 20th, June 20, these are all 2017, June 20th, 2017, June 27th, 2017, and June 29th, 2017. And this is an update to the agenda, so please note this is more of a note in the minutes, please note June 20th, 2017, and June 27th, 2017 meeting minutes have been approved. And there are, since June 29th, Board of Health concurrent meeting with Diane's committee are still outstanding, but they have been and can be approved, I believe received. Again, I'm ad-libbing a little bit into that. I'll go strictly by the minutes for the report for the open meeting law. Discuss Board of Health needs analysis process for performance improvement. Mr. Featherston explained to Mr. Escovitz the process the board went through last year with the Metro West Mediation Services. Prior to Mr. Eskovich joining the board, Mr. Featherston explained that funds were appropriated and money was lost because some members didn't want to participate. Mr. Eskovich said that the town manager has offered the service again. The board agreed this should be reviewed as an entire board. Next item, schedule of agenda items for the Board of Health meetings in July and August. A discussion ensued regarding the process of notifying the House Street landfill abutters of a status meeting. Mr. Featherston noted it is important to notify the abutters in writing and that he was asked by the chair to assist in setting up the July 25th meeting and would like to see the notifications out by Friday. Mr. Orm noted that Mr. Orm noted that we have received a list of abutters from the planning department. Mr. Featherston noted that he would handle the media. The board agreed this would be a public discussion to invite planning, Board of Selectmen, and DPW and to work together over the next 72 hours to get this done. The board agreed to allow the RTV well hearing at 7:15 p.m. in parentheses to allow citizens' participation, close parentheses, and said he would contact the library personnel to check availability. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, I did miss a sentence, I thought so. So I'm going back to where I closed the parentheses, and the public discussion would be at 7:30. The board discussed where the meeting will be held. Mr. Orm said he would contact the library personnel to check availability. Thank you. Discussion ensued regarding whether there would be one meeting in August or two. Next item, consideration of the topic chemical/portable toilets. Mr. Orm noted that there has been only one issue regarding this topic in the years he has been here, which was from one that had tipped over but was fixed within 2 hours. Mr. Orm explained that the building inspector requires these at new building sites. We require them at large events. Mr. Orm added that unless we're having issues, he does not see the need for regulations. Mr. Orm said he can utilize the nuisance laws if he had to. Next item, consideration of the topic underground storage tanks. Mrs. Mortensen noted that underground storage tanks are handled by the fire department and the building department. Mr. Featherston noted that it's good that underground storage tanks are being replaced. The new ones are double layered with sensors. Mr. Orm noted there have been no formal complaints on this. Next item, consideration of food permits related forms. Mr. Orm noted that Mr. Nariana has concerns with certified food managers are not notifying the board when they leave an establishment. Mr. Orm stated that that this is hard to track. Mr. Orm said we could look at requiring certified food manager on-site, a certified food manager on-site at all times, and we would be one of the few in the state. Mr. Orm said this is a project we could start to look at in the fall and invite all the food establishments to a meeting when it is discussed. The number 6, I think, is just a typo. So that ended that sentence. And then next statement is, subject as old business. Neighborhood complaints, Columbus Ave, Brook Street, Chestnut Street area. Mr. Orm noted there have been no complaints received. Next item is old business, board administrative consideration and public health priorities. The board discussed the need for more staffing, noting the town has almost doubled, but the staff size
No
is still the
complaints.
same.
Yeah.
Mr., do you want to hold off?
Did you say that no complaint
I
received?
cannot talk more than just, I'm reiterating a meeting from July 11th. There's no discussion on this. The
But-
chair made that
That's
notice.
correct.
The board, and this item's the last item on the agenda. The other part was removed. You'll see the last item was not part of the discussion. And it's been, it was, so I'll read it then.
It was.
I'll read it. As old business, board administrative considerations and public health priorities, that's the next item. The board discussed the need for more staffing, noting that the town has almost doubled, but the staff size is still the same. Mr. Featherston noted that this should be brought to the town manager, then the finance committee with a tangible presentation. The board agreed regarding the need to put data together in a presentation. Last item on the minutes is Mary Mortensen to be board liaison for the dementia-friendly community. I didn't mean to take it out, Mary. It was done, but this is believed to have been voted on and approved by 3 members at the August 28th question meeting. So it does jump up a little bit in discussion of it, but it just goes to say Mr. Orm noted, and that was part of this review. Mr. Orm noted that although this item isn't on the agenda, the board was asked by Selectman Steve Mitchell to appoint Mary Mortensen as liaison for the dementia-friendly community program. And that is the reiteration of the July 11th, 2017 minutes as reviewed at that meeting.
Can I ask a question, Madam Chair?
Yes.
What is the difference between posting this on the web and reading here? What input has been given to this by the remaining members or the citizens who weren't there, who could have been there on that day at that time?
At that meeting, there were 2 members that were missing, and all of these things were covered in that meeting. So it is a matter of making it a public record and making sure that you are aware of what took place at that meeting.
And as a citizen, I was there.
Yes, you are not.
Yes.
Publishing this on the web as minutes has been done, or it's been approved. So that covers, and I'm sure
It
he-
was
he
part
took-
of-
He took the time to read this, thank you for reading that, but what is the difference between reading it and putting it on the web? Is there anything significant
Very
happening?
simple. Yeah.
What
We're,
was?
we're a public body. We've discussed this in public. Mark has now made a second presentation in
In
public.
public.
We did not discuss this.
Yes, we
I
did.
didn't, I didn't say that
Now.
we discussed it now. We discussed it at the meeting that you were not at.
Were we supposed to discuss it, or were we supposed to just publish it?
You were supposed to be caught up with what went on at the meeting that you missed.
I caught
Plain
up on
and
the
simple.
meeting while watching the WACA-TV. That's
But this
We don't-
presentation wasn't for you tonight.
We didn't know
good.
that.
That's what I wanted to know.
So I conclude, Madam Chair, and I may say that this was the suggestion of town council
Absolutely,
to
town
do what I
council.
just did. So that agenda item is now complete.
Okay.
This satisfies the division's requirement.
It doesn't.
open
No, I don't
public
think anybody said that.
No,
Okay.
I did what our town attorney said for me to do.
So we're down to your report, Mark.
Okay, now we're live. We-
Clarification, the town attorney communicated in an email for you to read this today, is that?
This was discussed by phone.
It was
on how to
discussed
set
by
up this
phone
agenda.
yesterday.
Excuse me?
It was discussed by phone
It
yesterday.
was put on the agenda though, based on past discussions.
But she
Okay.
did
So
discuss it
with
with the
Mr.
prior
Orem
chair
or
numerous
with-
times in
with-
email.
Yes, you had.
Excuse me, I just wanted
So-
some clarification. The phone call was with you, Mary, or the phone call was
No,
The
we
with
had-
phone
Mark
call
Orem?
was with Mark, myself,
separate.
Laura, and the town attorney.
Oh, you had a conference call.
Yes.
Yeah, two persons that work for the town and the chair. And our town attorney.
I understand that, thank you. Thank you for
Just wanna make sure it's
clarifying,
clear
Mark.
for the
Okay.
WACA-TV.
But you already had that clarified in the emails that she
So,
sent to you.
health agent,
Cut it out.
health agents director's report.
Yes, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. 6A, FY18 budget revolving fund. We are presently in good shape on both the budget as well as the revolving fund. The new budget will be starting soon, so we're going to go into FY19. I believe we can say 19. So what I'm hoping the board will do in the next 2 to 3 months prior to the holidays is to, even if it's January, as we discussed prior, is to work towards some factual information, get a budget ready, discuss it hopefully with finance. We've discussed this, Ron's helping me as it relates to, as it was noted, with helping with the letter, getting information, showing the need of, and surveying other towns, not that we're all the same, but actually Ashland has various items that other towns don't have that do challenge this department, you know. And I have to say, and everyone laughs when I say this at department meetings, I can't believe all the temporary food events we issue, food permits we issue, because this town loves food and this town loves events. And it does wear down on the needed hours to do the work effectively. So again, I know I am speaking on behalf of this department, and I know management has said before, it's just not our department, it's many departments. So hopefully we can slowly keep working at this and indicating and showing the need to the appropriate personnel within the town. So I'm looking forward to working with the board on your ideas and various programs and improvement.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, John.
I think this is one of the most important discussions that we're gonna have going for the rest of this board, for the rest of this board's term going forward. We've talked about this for too many years. When Cheryl Sabaro was in recently, we talked about this. With my access to MAPC, I think every week that we let this keep going and we don't do this needs analysis and we don't start preparing, we're not doing the town a good service.
Correct.
I will volunteer, if it is the board's wishes, that I will take this. I will report back on a weekly basis. I'll work with MAPC. I will copy the board on all correspondence. But I think this is urgent that we act on this immediately.
Thank you, John.
I'd like to help you out with that.
I would
That's
love
what
to
we
help.
had
I would love
last
to help.
time, so
Yep.
if that's
Okay.
agreeable,
for the
Set up
board.
a
Can I have a
subcommittee?
motion to?
Set up a subcommittee?
No, I didn't say set up a
The
subcommittee.
two of you work
No, we
together?
don't need a
No, need
subcommittee.
a subcommittee.
And is-
I said,
Which is-
my recommendation
Ron,
was is that I would
Congress?
inform the entire board.
But I thought you wanted last time me to work with you on that.
I would love you to work with me, but if I update the entire board, there's no need for a subcommittee. As long as we agree, and we agree in a public meeting, that when I submit an email that I will copy, do not reply. It's for information only purposes. We will only discuss
At the meetings.
at the meetings. I
Right.
will update you prior to the meetings, but we will only discuss at the meetings.
That's fine.
Then we don't need to form a subcommittee.
Okay.
Could John clarify what information you would be getting from MAPC? I attended the last meeting, I think Preston Crow was there and someone
No,
else was
that's
there.
not MAPC, Judy. That's the
Um,
Metro West Regional Collaborative that you attended. Metro West Collaborative is a subcommittee of the
And
MAPC.
my question is, could you detail what type of information that they would have? My expectation would be, is that we would be gathering data specific for Ashland to justify Ashland's positions. What are you expecting what would you anticipate getting from the outside organization?
MAPC is the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, of which I'm Governor Baker's appointee to. The Metro West Area Planning Council includes all of Boston, the North Shore, and most of Middlesex County. So what we do is we have access to the information to all of these communities. What I would suggest, and I would put this in an email to everybody, is that we use comparable populations that I would target and ask MAPC to provide me staffing of all those departments of Board of Health. MAPC actually has a Board of Health division. Mark has met the director. We met him at the marijuana meeting that we had in the library a couple months ago. I would ask for comparable budgets, comparable staffing, comparable projects that they're working on, comparable grant proposals that they have in front of the state. I would compile all of that information. I would probably use the standard, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head, I would look at probably 19,000 populations to 15,000 populations per city or town and try to get that comp information, find out, most importantly, what are their staffing in the public health department, and use that, and then also ask for their budgets. And also I would ask for the last couple of years worth of town meeting votes on any public health issue. It's real simple and easy, because if I ask MAPC to do it, they already have the information.
Right.
They can get it to us ASAP.
Well-
Mark Drayson is the director of MAPC. He is also on the board at the Metro West Regional Collaborative, the meeting that you attended. He's a former state rep. He's a great asset to the town. I could even have him come to a meeting possibly and give a presentation.
In line with that, I had sent probably a week ago a report that the DPH provides to the legislators. It was 2014, I guess. And if you go back and look at the data provided there, it says for every town where you have 150 food permit issued, you need to have one full-time food inspector. And we are close to that, but you only have a quarter of the full-time inspector. In fact, Michael Herbert met us at the Ashland Day. He was suggesting that we should tap into the revolving fund, which is increasing, and then use and then hire another part-time food inspector. So that is the thing that we can do, and that will help you to relieve some of the Mark's duties that he has been doing with the food inspection, so that he can get his time freed up for many other things.
No, I applaud that, and I think that's great. But
Plus, the
We need to
advantage is that you have a better restaurants in town, because they will all be inspected more often than two, and that will increase the revenue for the town through meals tax. Right now, the revenue that we get is about $210,000 meals tax, and the amount of money that we raise out of fees and other stuff is about $50,000, $260,000 totally. And our budget is roughly $160,000, so we are a positive revenue department, and it is worth spending that money at $14,000 or $15,000, hire another part-time inspector, and then we need to make that even before we get this data.
I agree with you with one caveat. We do not receive that revenue.
the town of Ashland receives.
It doesn't matter.
Yes, it
If
does.
if our restaurants fail to perform better,
As you know, I
lose the
support
sales. If you
you
lose the
100%.
sales, you lose the meal tax. The town loses the money no matter what happens.
I agree.
Whether you
But this
take it out
board
of
does
this
not
bucket
receive
or that
the meal
bucket,
tax.
it is all the money that comes into the town. Doesn't matter whether you lock it. But somehow it comes out of either our tax revenues, directly or indirectly. And nobody's printing the money for Ashland. Somebody's paying for it.
KG, you referred to the hiring process. Could you, as a member of the Charter Review Committee, refresh us our understanding? I'm not sure how Tom Curran was hired for this town. Could you please refresh us on
that
the
is-
process by
That-
which,
that is.
by the
well,
process by which?
Judy, I would love to, but the question is whether we have time to go over that. I'll ever defer that to at a later meeting, and then I'll definitely work with it. I had one little suggestion for Mark, if you don't mind.
If it's little.
My
Very
suggestion
little,
still
very
stands.
little.
Madam Chair, my suggestion still stands if you want to take action.
Sure, I thought we agreed on working with
Yeah,
you.
but-
No, we had a
Take a
motion,
vote.
we had a second, we had discussion. Now I will call a vote. All those in favor of John and
Madam Chair, could you
KG
please repeat the
working
vote?
together?
Could the motion please be
We're still
repeated
being, working to-
for clarity, please?
No.
Go ahead, John, you
You're
can
gonna say-
say.
No, well, okay.
Maybe
I'll just
Laura
do it
has
for
it.
clarification.
I thought you made the motion, I'm sorry.
I made the suggestion.
Suggestion.
The suggestion, but I'll make it as
Make
a
it as a
motion.
motion.
I'll make a motion that I will take the task of working with MAPC to develop information and financials for this board, and I will work with KG on this project. I will also update the board on a weekly basis on the progress or lack thereof, and send out informational-only emails to the board that they should not respond to, and we will only discuss in a public forum when we are meeting. And I'll just add this as a caveat because I believe in benchmarks, is that we have a budget proposal to take to May town meeting.
I second that.
All right. No further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous, Laura?
So that's item 6A,
Yeah,
Madam.
Okay.
but I just had one suggestion that we finish that suggestion, Mark. I know these documents you gave it, so I would appreciate if you can put it on the letterhead and make sure that you put, maybe tell the agent or so who made it, and the date that you put it in, because when you put this in a permanent record, it didn't have date, this has date.
Okay.
I know that the file, when the
Oh,
file,
that was July, that was my
the file
first
was
one.
named appropriately, but the file name is electronic, it doesn't show up here.
Yeah,
The email should show up on the footnote.
Yeah, that was my first one.
I
That was-
understand, but
yeah.
you need to put the file name.
So
on the
we'll go on the
footnote.
letterhead, and the last one that I updated you 3 days in a row, 2 weeks ago, did have my name on it.
Yeah, you're fine.
I'll
So
make, don't worry, I'll make.
when you make
that's
these
fine.
as permanent records, these should be made with
I can do
full
that.
names and the date on
I'm
which it was
sorry, I can't
presented
hear.
to.
There's multiple conversations, I think, going on in the
Can we
room.
now move ahead to the landfill update, Mike?
Sure. Just so the board knows, the routine testing, we had to go out for bid for the last 9 months, which starts in October. And we have received, well, we have till midnight tonight to receive bids. So once those bids are received, I will ask the chair if I can do another, I'll suggest that I do another update to the board next Tuesday, if that's when, well, that is when the board's deciding to meet. And the other update to the board.
Have we received any bid that you're on?
Yes, I've received a couple, 3 actually so far, but there were about 5 people that were sent out to, so.
Could you do us a favor to get a template of what is being requested from these bidders
Yeah, that's fine.
to us by email so
I'll
that.
check with management, because when you're doing bids, there's so much that's public, there's so much that's
No,
not.
I know what the
We're
number,
not public.
the template
We're
of
the
what is
board.
being asked for them to do.
Yeah, it is a
the
public,
that's-
it is a
ABCD
public
task.
bid process.
I'm sure, that's.
No,
public
the
bid.
bid process is fine, if you have a blank form and say, these are the things we need the data on.
That's
No, I agree.
So I don't need the numbers, I need only the blank.
No,
form. What
Judy
is
said
the-
it wasn't public. I
That
said it is
originally
public.
came
It is
from
public.
DEP.
What tasks are being asked for them to do, that's
It
what I need.
wasn't,
Yeah, everything that we're being asked to do is required by DEP.
Yeah.
Right, but I do need a
And
copy
it's
to look
monthly
at.
gas monitoring, semi-annual groundwater monitoring. Now we're required to test the landfill as a walkthrough inspection, because the DEP used to do it. Now we have to do that every other year. So those are some of the things, and our gas monitor wells have increased in number because of the gas permeation. So those are the basics of what we're.
Right, we have something written up somewhere.
I have it already.
Yeah,
I'll send you an
send me
RFP.
that. Yeah, send
I
me,
can send it.
send the whole board.
I'll check with Jen, she's my manager, and make sure she's okay. I don't think she'll have any trouble. I can send you that. I don't think it'll be a problem.
Ma'am, can you review with us, please, the documents that we have received? And also, could you please review when the walkthrough inspections are so that board members can
Madam Chair, I
participate?
don't have that on this agenda. This was an update.
Right, this is just.
Well,
an
it's an
update.
update, but I'm looking for the supportive documents.
What I'd be glad to do, Madam Chair, is we do send out in Dropbox any information we receive, but I'll be glad to send if you don't. The RFP was a different situation. It was contractual. I can check with our manager, and I'd be glad to send that if we can, and I'm sure we can. So with that said, I don't think we're hiding anything, and I didn't mean to say it any differently.
No.
But we do a lot of work here to make sure every board member here, and you can all look at me, and you
Well,
can know.
I'm asking
Let
just
me
for the
finish,
list. I'm
Madam
asking
Chair,
for the
I'm being
list.
interrupted again.
I'm asking for the
May I
list.
be not interrupted at
Well,
least?
I'm trying to have a conversation.
Point of order.
There's
Well,
no
it's not a
conversation, you go through the
conversation.
chair.
Well,
Madam
I
Chair,
don't hear
Madam
other
Chair.
people doing this. I
Judy,
don't,
stop,
Mary, I don't hear other people doing this. Why
Madam
is this
Chair.
just for me?
stop.
Why is this just for
Mark
me,
is
ma'am?
trying to give you
Why are
an
you doing
answer,
this?
and you will insistently talk.
Well, I will listen to
Stop.
him, but then please let me
Go
ask
ahead,
more
Madam
Madam
questions.
Chair, just so it was an update more or less, and I find it ironic that anytime I try to talk, I do get interrupted. But
I know.
Dropbox, you're getting information in Dropbox. Laura's the one that does all the hard work on that, and she deserves the appreciation for that. We make every effort to make sure you get the documents that we receive, and if indeed the RFP is the one that you wanted to see, I will make sure of that, which leads me to the next item if I can.
Well, I still would like to ask questions concerning the item that is being discussed right now. May I ask more questions?
Quickly.
Oh.
You do tend to get long-winded, Judy.
Madam Chair, I believe that's another personal attack, and I would
No.
appreciate
That feels
not
pretty
having
accurate.
personal
It's pretty
attacks.
accurate. Go
I would
ahead.
appreciate the non-personal
Ask the
attacks.
question.
Madam Chair, there is interruption from the audience member, Mr. Dissoni here. Would you please allow me? So the question goes back to the supportive documents for this. It is a concern, the planning board had a presentation, and I understand that the Amoresco was there. They discussed Board of Health related topics, and Eversource, there was in the conversation. We at this board have never heard from our consultant, ATC, and so I'm just looking
That's
for
not
a
that
complete
We had a
package.
public forum.
I am looking for a complete package of the documents in support, and I understand that, concerning the, I think that had to actually go to Mr. Morgan's open meeting law complaint, that there was a vote taken on the DEP recommendations, and it would be of great help to the board members to have that information.
Madam
So
Chair,
I'm
if
requesting-
I could remind you that we had a public forum,
I'm sorry, see,
this-
once again, he's not going through you.
Well, you're not listening.
but I
Well,
did
no,
go through
see,
her.
Mary, I go through you, and when he interrupts me,
He did
then
go
I
through
get
me.
attacked, so I really feel like I'm the odd man out here being attacked,
Well, when
my
you're
Mary.
sitting, you put yourself there. but
Well,
that's another
it's
point.
kind of a very tight room and not conducive to squishing into a corner.
Should we
Mark,
bring in a
please
kids' table?
proceed and stop these
You want me to proceed?
interruptions.
So there
Proceed,
won't be
okay,
any
number
supportive documents?
6C,
Go ahead.
request for irrigation well, Lot 3 Wilson Circle. Madam Chair, I've asked the previous chair, and now I'm asking you to make sure that's put on the next agenda.
Yes.
The applicant is happy to know that we'll have this on our next agenda for
The 26th.
September 26th.
Okay.
And
What
that's an
types of
update for the
supportive
board.
documents have we
Madam Chair,
received?
item number 6D.
So for
Stop
number
me if
C,
I'm
may I
incorrect.
ask
No,
a
go
question,
right ahead.
Madam Chair?
Food establishment updates.
Number C, may I ask a question,
wait.
please, Madam Chair?
We're on number D, which is the food
Well, I
establishments.
would like to please ask a question concerning 6C, the item that was just mentioned.
On the well,
Yes, I'm wondering, have we received the complete package of supportive documents?
Does the applicant submitted it to you numerous
Mr.
times?
Featherston's answering the question. I
it's
was
been
hoping that
submitted
Mr.
several
Oram.
times.
I was hoping that Mr. Orm could relate with us what documents we have actually received.
Whatever you would want me to update, Madam
Yes,
Chair, I'd be
please.
glad to. I mean, we're all people here again. Let's treat each other nice. And yes, we have received the plans. The plans will be provided for when the board will be reviewing it for the next agenda, which will be in the next day or two. You will get it in Dropbox. So because the agenda is being formulated right now, so you're gonna get the agenda and all the associated documents that go with the information for that agenda.
Have we gotten an application?
We have received an application.
Has the board gotten it?
No, you have not.
We have
It's
not
under
gotten.
review and it hasn't been ready yet for the board to review. It's reviewed by me first and then the applicant has been asking to put it on an agenda. And once we get an agenda scheduling for it, you will get the information for your review as well.
So
But
the
he's been asking since
application,
July.
you received,
and
so just
depends
to,
on-
so just to clarify, you've received the application, but you're still reviewing it, and that's why you've not
That is-
shared it with us.
No, it's not why I didn't share it with you. It's not ready for your review. since it's not on the
Misinterpretations, let's
agenda.
keep on going.
Yeah, please.
I'm sorry,
don't-
it's not ready
and that's a
for
good
us.
point.
It's not ready for us. I don't understand that.
Well, what I was saying is that I review it, and once it's on agenda, then it's when it's ready for you to review. If you want to come in and review it, or you want it prematurely, that's fine, but the review is done by the professional health agent first, and I am the one that has the proficiency to do that review. If you have well drillers or well professionals that would like to review it beforehand, let me know. That's the way it works, Judy. That's why
I'm
I'm
sorry, do we have a policy?
Now, the
to
next
that
item, Madam
effect?
Chair.
Yes.
You're saying
Yeah,
that,
actually, I'm your health agent. I
Actually, we
review
do,
everything
yeah.
for this board, and
Yeah.
then when it comes time for this board to review it, it gets on an agenda.
Exactly.
And if it's an emergency, you'll be notified within 48 hours. Madam Chair, the next item is 6D, food establishment updates. Han 2. The board has received those reports. They are up to date now. They had to get through the choke saver. They did that and actually dropped by to see me at the Ashland Day booth. He was on the other side and he was handing me his certificate for his choke saver.
Nice.
So the other point to that, I haven't finished yet.
I'm done talking.
Okay, because you may have questions that I might be able to answer.
Sure, sure.
As the board probably saw in the reports, we received an isolated suspect food poisoning concern. The person that called us has not returned information to us. I've referred 3 calls now to this person, just asking for the proper information that has to be put on a form required by the state. We do what we call food reporting cases, and there's various questions. We have food history, the previous 3 days, if they saw a doctor, if they had a stool culture. But no matter what, when we get a food poisoning, the suspect or not, notice, we go out and inspect, which Tom did, and Tom saw some items, as you may have seen through those reports, that were, again, concerns that we had in the past. And I told Han too that it's up to this board how they want to handle that. They did correct them right away, realizing that, you can't continue to have the same violations that you had just previously. And I say previously, last December. But there's serious violations, and I told Tom to make sure he indicated to them that this would be updated at a public meeting. I don't know if seeing the audience, he did know it would be discussed, and that it's up to this board to decide how they want to handle that. But these are, again, repetitive violations, even though they're spanned 6, maybe 8 months apart. Madam Chair, John has a seat.
Yes, John.
This really frustrates me. We went out of our way, what was it, a year ago? About a year ago?
December of last year.
December of last year.
6th.
That we actually held a Board of Health meeting with the staff, supporting and also holding accountable the staff with this. That, when I was the chair, that I thought it was important enough that you want to be as supportive of your local businesses, but at the same time, ensure public health. Less than a year later, we have some serious violations. I'm not telling the chair how to run any of her meetings. I would make a suggestion that we invite them to a meeting as soon as possible, and we have an open and frank discussion.
I think
About
that's an
this.
excellent point. We could put it on next week's
I
agenda.
can give them notice tomorrow.
We
And we
need
should
to
also
instill
look-
public confidence in this one.
But we should also look through our,
7:30.
yes.
how does
Look
this,
through what we could possibly use as a deterrent.
Well, I believe
whether it would be a
education
sus-
is important as well.
But
so-
whether it should be, we've already educated, they brought
Right.
in a specialist and it's still happening.
Right.
So do we do a suspension? Do we do, something punitive more or less?
And that is allowed, Madam Chair, if I may, it's allowed under the food code for repetitive violations, and we do not like to do that, but this
Right.
board had to do that a few times on another situation that was repetitive.
Well, and
It's
I'm-
damaging to the business, we know it
And
is.
I'm gonna actually reference that, because that other business that we won't mention, I frequent on a regular basis, and every week, I never wanna come in front of you again in the way you handled it. And I will never be in front of your board ever again, and I think we have to have that same zero
I
tolerance
think
type
so,
of thing
too.
for these people.
Would you,
They're great for the community, but only if they follow the rules.
yes, KG?
I've been following the food inspection report for almost a year, ever since things have come up on the Dropbox. Much easier to look at it, and then in general I've seen first section has some items to mark the presence of the person in charge, or the CFM, or the anti-choke, all the details. And majority of them I see that there is nothing written on the anti-choke. I'm not sure whether I need to interpret as they don't have it, or Tom didn't ask, didn't put it in. But in this case, specifically, there has been, I think, 2 or 3 times that they have noted the anti-choke thing. Is this specific to Huntos, or are we going to go around and then do it for all of them to make sure that they're all in compliance with it? Because every establishment with more than 25 seats are required to have the anti-choke person all the time. And some of these businesses are open for 90 hours a week. And we define the full-time as 35 hours. So we need to make sure that they have sufficient number of people who are trained in anti-check process to cover the 90 hours. And in line with your requirement that you started in June of 2015, you indicated that we need to have CFMs available for all the time. And
I
then you
suggested-
repeated it again recently. So I think we should work on this one and then get going further.
All the more reason why we need to add staff.
Yeah.
That is the reason that I redesigned the permit form to include and get data out of them, saying that how many hours they work, how many full-timers are there, so that we can look at it and find out whether there's any small number of people who need to be corrected, or there's a wide range of it. So the only way to collect the data is to modify the form and give it to them. That's why I designed that form.
That is important
I-
as well as knowledge.
I wish. The other thing that I would like to see is this board take an advanced measure to put these things online, like Brookline, Newton, Wellesley, other towns, everything put online. We need to go into that. It much saves a lot of time for them, for her, in terms of getting the form up there. And the data can also be entered. And I did speak to Paul Carpenter about 2 months ago, casually, when I was looking for his help. He said it can be done, so if it can be done, I'd like to work with him to see whether we can build something, prototype, and bring it to the board, and then see whether it can be implemented.
There's,
May I ask a point of clarification?
John.
Put what online? I'm sorry?
The
Anti-choking?
data, no, entire data, the permit
food
form,
reports.
the food forms, the application forms itself. They can input everything through the data rather than these people
Oh, okay,
collecting.
okay.
These people take it and then putting all the data in a
That's a good
spreadsheet
idea.
is going to taking too much time of theirs.
That's a good idea.
So if he has to get an annual report, he has to go through, look at the report that he submitted recently, it is handwritten.
we've
I
been
was gonna say,
asking,
we have that.
well,
you know?
we've been at you can get the application online, and then you can send it in. It's an interactive application that we've been asking for, with actually, hopefully the town's almost there, with fee payment also online. Because the amount of work that Laura goes through to get permits out each year would be a matter of hitting a button.
Right.
Well, maybe a few. I'm not gonna make it sound that easy. And it would make our work so much easier as it relates to that, and possibly for them too. Because then they don't have to fill it out, get an envelope, come down.
And then
I
most
agree.
of the complaints on the forms will automatically checked by the computer, so they know that it is not there, then they cannot complete the application form, so they have to resort to getting everything done. In
That
the
was
same
what I was
line,
hoping to
I
work
also
on.
looked at our permit template, it doesn't seem to comply with what the food code requires, so I'd like to work with Mark to upgrade that permit template so that we have compliance with that state.
Are we in compliance
Well,
with what
we-
the state
Yeah,
requires?
it is a state.
The form
it's a
is
state
not,
form.
form is not
Well, that's a
compliant
state
with what-
form.
I understand, but the
Well, it is a state form.
How can a state form not be in compliance with the state?
things happen.
But
Things happen in the
just
state.
so you know, I've talked to Diane Bernazani because there was also a
Well,
question
let-
of collecting
Yeah,
the social
that is
security.
not a subject
She's-
matter for discussion.
No, no.
So
but
what we do is
this
let's
a
sit
big
down,
one.
let me sit down
I'd
and explain
suggest-
to you.
Yeah, and that's
then-
fine, but I also suggest, and we've sat down a few times, get Tom involved too, but then I think we need to have a meeting and take one at a time.
That's right.
Take the potential for just the forms and get that one resolved. Look at the certified food managers, one on staff at all times or in operation or preparing. Get that one and invite the food establishments. It's important to have that interaction. They should understand this is not about making it more difficult for them. It's to make it better for everybody.
Right.
You know, and that knowledge is key. And so we're on the same lines on this. It's just, and I would suggest if we're going to do anything related to the deadline of mid-October, we gotta get moving real quick, because if Paul Carpenter can do something for us prior to the permits, Laura, I'm looking to ask you, you start your permit processing to send them out in mid-October?
Yeah, we're right now working with Access on the Word document, that's what that is.
So hopefully we can do it
And I
before,
feel
this would be great if we could do it for
I'm
this year.
sure Paul Carpenter can turn that in one day.
But like
or
you say,
something.
we'll be here all night if we try to resolve it all right now, so I
Okay,
agree
so
with
can
you.
we,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question concerning the Honto discussion. My question is it consistent with how we treat other restaurants in terms of their repeat violations?
Serious repetitive violations have been treated this way.
yes,
Well, I had looked through files, and it appears that this is not the only one that has had repeat violations, so my concern
and they
is
were
that
brought in before the board.
So by my looking through files, I've discovered some of those things. I am questioning
What are the dates
how,
on those files?
I'm questioning how we and the board can be better informed.
Sure, what I would suggest is, could you give me the names of those that you have found that were repetitive? I'd like to look at those.
And the dates.
Just in the dates, so I can look at, let me finish. It's
Yeah.
not to be adversarial in any way, it's to work with you. All I want to do is look at them to see how serious those violations were. And if they were serious, then yes, they should be brought into the board. If they're repetitive within a series of inspections, again, let's work together on it. So if you could send me your information that you just said you have completed, I would appreciate that. I can look at it, and we work together. Thank you.
I actually have not completed anything, but I could say
Oh.
that in December, there was a $100 fine asserted against Cherry Blossom. I don't believe that came to the board.
Sure, Jim.
And I would question, there are restaurants similar to
Just
that.
send it to me and I'll look
And
at it.
recently, what did we have? Dosa Temple storing food in a residential
I don't
garage.
think this is on the
And-
agenda, Madam
It's
Chair.
not, now we're swaying
Well,
past the agenda.
they
Not
are
fair to
related.
the,
We don't have to speak about the
Madam Chair, they're
specific.
not here to represent
But
themselves.
my question goes to, how can we get better data?
Right
We're-
at the moment, Judy, you're out of order. Those are not on the agenda. We do not need another open meeting law complaint for going off topic.
My question is,
The
how
items on the
can we,
agenda, Madam Chair,
how
are
can we
listed.
get better, how can we get better
So,
data is my
What I
question.
would suggest is, I think KG has the right idea. We work towards more goals and objectives to make it better.
Right, the
And
documentation.
that's, and documentation that you may have found, please send it our way. We'll look at it and see if there's any missing links, because if there are, we need to correct them. If there aren't, then it shouldn't be said in public, but we'll look at it. But again, the agenda didn't have that down to discuss today, but we'll work offline. KG, you and I and Tom can sit down. John, you're working on projects with us. We'll all work on that project and we'll get there.
Yeah, I'd
We
like to
want
get-
it better.
I'd like to make sure
I
that
do
I
need
get
to
your
add-
particular-
So if I can stick to the agenda, that would be.
But I do need to add in response to Mark's query of me to provide him the information. I mean, Lauren was here when Michael Herbert told me I needed to leave. I came in to look
Again,
at the
we're on
files.
Again,
I came in to look at the files, so the ability to actually gather this information
Madam Chair,
is
Judy,
being
I'm asking you to
prevented because
please
I was told that I could not look
cease.
at the files.
And the member
I
was
could not-
banned from
I
accessing
could
the
not
staff,
look.
and that is the
I
reason
was
why.
banned for
Madam Chair.
speaking just like this
Okay,
because
enough,
of the
Judith.
same issue. We are,
gonna
board
continue
members
on.
are not being allowed to look at files.
So, I hate,
That is not
I
true.
dislike talking over people, Madam
I
Chair, but I
understand
will
that.
continue.
Madam Chair, if I may. you
It
know,
appears that when
in all
I
the
speak,
years
I
that we've
can't
worked
speak.
in this town, and all of us being dedicated volunteers to the town, I can never remember one time that members of staff sitting at this table have never stopped what they were doing and granted us access to anything that we asked. So I feel this character assassination is out of order.
I agree. And I agree, and I'll say that loud. Next item,
Well,
Shell and Dunkin' Donuts.
someone
so
just
the board
said I
knows,
said
Shell and
something
Dunkin'
that was
Donuts, what
false,
happened is they
and
actually
that's
tore the
just
building
not
down.
true.
Board
Yes, they
members,
did.
as you
It's
know,
not
and
true.
they
It's when
actually
I
went through a
try
whole
to access
process of
information, I'm
rebuilding.
not allowed
We
to
actually had to
access
check
it.
on their tank, and their tank was put in appropriately after all that drainage issue out there with the groundwater. And now they're almost there. They're gonna be called Seasons, the Shell Station's convenience store. Quite nice if you, when you open it,
Yeah,
go in.
yeah, nice.
They got high ceilings, beautiful rafters, all new
Right
equipment.
out front.
It's gonna, they have a whole new kitchen setup in the back, both for them and Dunkin' Donuts, mostly to be used by Dunkin' Donuts. And both applicants have been involved with me the past week, working very closely because they are hoping, and we'll see if this happens, they're hoping to open in 2 weeks. And we have
Nice.
construction inspections to final inspections where everything's clean and refrigeration working and all the appropriate sanitizer, hand soap, that inspection, and they can bring the food in, and then you'll be seeing the grand opening. So again, you'll be seeing that very soon. Santana's, they're at the 119 Pond Street location. You've seen the donut stop there, you've seen pizza place there. Hopefully it's the drive-through window side of it, it's that, it used to be the Sunoco station. They're slow right now in getting everything ready, but they did change out the fryer later for the donuts to an electric stove. So it's been piecemeal. They're calling us as they go along, but I can't tell you when they'll be opening. But we are working with them as much as we can, and whenever they need us out there, we do go out. New opening for Murphy's Tasty Treat.
Nice.
Everyone's wondering.
Right, absolutely.
I saw it on
Go home
I saw it on Facebook last night. I'm like, so I went in and talked to the GC and said, "You guys are all over Facebook. When are you opening?" And they've done a tremendous job in there. It's beautiful in
Doesn't
there.
even look like it.
I told them I love the
Like
green
that,
they
right.
used. It's like a aqua green or whatever they call it, but it's plus the equipment's new. There's some modifications they have to make for my inspection today. They put some drop ceiling tiles in one area that require they're supposed to be washable, so they're going to switch those out. But they're pretty much ready to roll. They put in a brand new outside exterior grease trap, so they got that all set. So they're pretty much. They're hoping too. Well, one guy said December, but I said if you guys open December, well, I think some people in town may make it open sooner. But again, they're moving along.
They're gonna be 52 weeks though?
Yeah, I believe they got the whole place set up for burgers and so forth,
Good.
and yeah, they're anxious. I know the owner has been. I called him a couple weeks ago because I said, "What's going on?" I saw someone watering the plants outside, and I said, "You know, are you guys getting close?" And then all of a sudden today, the lights are on. I went in, and they are moving along. They're at the furthest stage than I would say someone else because they got the walls finished, but they still got to get equipment. They got to get a blower unit for the vent for the fryer later, so they got a little bit of odds and ends to do. But hopefully, you know, I wish them the best as I do all these new openings. The hot dog dealer, just so the board knows, we've had this application in for a couple months, and the reason we've had this in for a couple months is he chose to locate his mobile unit, which has not yet been inspected, but we've been talking about the requirements. It's a drive mobile unit, like a UPS truck. Is the location it will need review by zoning and planning. I found out today, planning board as well. I spoke to the building inspector because it's the parking lot, and if he takes away parking spaces with his unit, it gets very.
Traffic.
So we have to wait on them. This is one of those now where we're in.
Where are they? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't say it. Down at Sunnyside Liquors, right at
Oh,
the
okay.
town line at
Yeah.
Market Basket.
I thought the hot dogs are not under food permit requirement.
Oh, they are. They don't have to have a CFM.
They might have
The
food, but they
only,
require a
the only
permit.
perishable food that doesn't need a CFM, don't, certified food manager, don't ask me why, the state, who knows what happened in those days. So unique.
Because you don't want to know. Just want to get it.
I don't know what's in a hot dog that would make it so different. Anyways, but I even noted the zoning, but it's also planning, just so everyone knows, and Sunnyside Liquor's at the end of 126. Corner Spot's been doing fantastic with their vendors too. Last week they had, let me pronounce it right, La Maciona Gâteau, and that was a lady that made crepes, and she, I thought it was a beautiful setup. She had everything she needed. The nice thing about Corner Spot is they have the 3 compartments. Like, it's small, just for utensils, but it's perfect for an incubator. For someone that wants to get started, maybe move somewhere in town. That's the whole purpose of that facility. Now they have someone in there and they're doing tacos with shredded beef and stuff and coleslaw.
Yesterday there was a statement by Michael Hubbardson that now doing good economically in terms of enticing a business to come and stay put here, so that probably didn't sell well. That's what he was selling yesterday.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a point out quickly? Procedure and time, okay, and is your agenda what's left matching up for the time so far?
I looked and
We're doing well.
Madam Chair, I feel it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Can I just ask one question about, so I like KG's idea of, getting everything online. Then you don't have, if this is not correct, or what's the process, just in general?
So if
how
you
would
came
that
in
happen?
asking for a food application or call, I'd say, it's online if you want to fill it out that way.
No, but I mean, how does that all get there?
Then
I mean,
they have
is that
to
an
mail
IT?
it to us. How did they
No, I'm
get
saying
it?
if we want to get this stuff online, what's the process that the town has to
Paul
take? to-
Carpenter has to just put it on our web as an interactive
Okay, so he's the
application.
IT guy.
They-
Okay.
What they do is they create a form,
Adobe.
web server form, so they do that, and that will provide a spreadsheet for them in the back end as well as a copy of the application form.
And then all that data
Yeah,
can
it
be linked
gets,
and-
it gets
so it's all
you can,
software.
yeah, it can be done, that's
Oh,
not a problem.
So it's all
I'm not an
computers.
expert, but I know that.
And we would receive it. I work right now on interactive building applications, and they gave us the training 2 years ago. And at that time, we still have the same company. I asked, "Can you get our food permits on this?" It cost additional funds to put them on, and so we're waiting on the funding. But keep pushing. And I'll keep pushing too.
We can do it locally, we don't have to
Yeah.
get on their
So
software.
let's see if Paul can do,
Yeah.
but that was the original intent, to have the building applications, the food applications, and
And
zoning,
so
and-
if-
Everything
but-
all in one
no,
place.
but
Yeah.
it costs money to add additional applications.
If Paul has an issue with time, I can get a ton of
Well,
Indian.
let's see where we can go.
I
I
can
love
get a ton of Indian IT guys to volunteer for you, there's no problem.
Whatever the case is, the faster the better.
Yeah.
Get it
I
done.
would say, wouldn't you say, Laura,
Get it
because it's
done.
helping you. So that's the end of section 60.
Wait a minute, what about this real food treatment?
Oh, and they're the other one that's right now there, and they're serving the pulled pork. They serve small plates of different types of meats, black beans
Oh,
and
like the
Mexican
peppers?
style. Yeah, very good. I tried one myself as a customer after. Tom inspected them on Saturday, and just so
One of the
everyone
perks of
knows.
the job.
No, there's no perks. If I'm there,
No, he didn't go
I
until
walk
after Tom
in,
Yes, after Tom
I am a
inspected it,
customer.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying that you didn't try it until it was inspected. That's what I'm
Before
saying.
it jumps to it, I just want to.
Is
Madam
there
Chair-
anything else on
Madam
this?
Chair, can I
No,
just make a
nothing on this
suggestion?
section, but I just wanted to go back to the item that we tabled. I did send an evening a copy of my edits of the policies and procedure that I have. I couldn't send it by email outside because it's going to create a problem. So now I have declared it is there. If either they can get a physical
Laura-
copy
Laura-
or
Laura
an
has
email
it.
to them, that would be helpful. So you will have a copy of what I have. Thank
Dropbox
you.
would be the way, Laura? Is that-
Yeah, it's a Word document, so.
Yes, John?
It would
Madam
be
Chair, if
helpful
I
to
may,
have it in
I will,
Dropbox.
I would ask that KG, in support of what I think is his good idea, if he would CC the rest of the board and Paul Carpenter, and we could start working on this tonight, tomorrow. And then maybe we can have an update for next Tuesday.
Right,
Or
but
whatever,
just,
yeah.
if anything that gets sent out,
Nobody
it's,
responds.
nobody responds.
It's informational purposes only.
Absolutely.
Nobody respond to it. KG send an email if you're willing to Paul Carpenter, and then maybe by next time we meet, we'll be live on it.
Okay.
Because I think he can do it pretty quick. I don't know what he's got on his desk right now, but we'll get a time frame at least to update the public on.
And the last two should only take me 10 minutes. It's about
Okay.
8:40. Bobcat Hill Lane, unfortunately, one of our vendors who picks up our trash, you know, the new toters, that arm that picks them up had a hydraulic fuel leak, a fluid leak. And so with that happening, they didn't catch it till after the next house. So this response was amazing. So Waste Management called their vendor and their Ellis licensed site professional. I'm sorry for putting an acronym
It's
in
okay.
there. And the place was cleaned up in a couple hours. It was about a 10 to 15 gallon spill of hydraulic fluid. It didn't get too far because the person on the truck had some ideas of how to prevent it. He actually took, the person was mad, but he took the neighbor next to the storm drain, he took her bark mulch out of her side garden right next to it and made a dam. And it prevented it from going into the stormwater structure. She was not happy, but I'm sure it'll be taken care of. It's just a little side funny thing on it, but again, we all appreciate it, and they put down some absorbent sand, like a absorbent material like Speedy Dry, but that's a term, that's a name.
They should
And-
probably carry some piggies on there.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the same thing. So it's almost cleaned up to the point where now it's went to DEP. It's an immediate response action, IRA, 2 hours notification. So in this world, in Massachusetts, DEP doesn't have the staff, so they have now trained engineers and licensed site professionals to do their work. They're their eyes as well as we are too. And so that, all I can say is good things about how well it went and how
But it may be
fast it was
something that
picked
we
up. But
could
they,
suggest.
so and I know in the previous years we were in charge of the trash
Right.
program. And I believe, Mark, we had Orlando back in those days. I believe he carried absorbent
Right.
material. So
I
that
think he
could,
carried piggies.
what I'll ask is David Miller, who's in charge of it now, to see if they do carry those.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, all right? And then,
And if they don't, maybe we could ask them to add them.
yep, because if they had that, they wouldn't have had to use a lady's
Right.
bark mulch.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, it
To
was.
prevent that
They
contamination.
didn't waste
If it
any
did,
time.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I agree. But like with everything, we learn from it, so we'll see what happened with them carrying absorbent booms and booms and so forth. Last item for me would be request from management. We had a meeting, I think it was 2 meetings ago, and Michael Herbert asked, we talked a little bit about free cash at that meeting. I think you did, that's why I'm looking at you. And he said, could you ask the board to invite me into a meeting to discuss free cash? Which it was, and again, not to be adversarial, it was requested, and I'm just requesting it again to make sure that hopefully, you know, the board can get that on for the next agenda, or some agenda that's gonna be in for Michael and as well as for the board.
Is there an incentive for the board to get some money out of it for work?
I'm
Then
wondering.
what's the point in coming and telling us about free cash? They can just write it
Well,
and
we
give it
won't
to
know
us.
until, unless we invite him and ask.
Ask him to bring the money in his pocket so we can take it away for our board of
No,
health.
but on a serious note,
Yes.
you gotta remember, at the November town meeting, which is not the annual town meeting, we only have one town meeting in town. The November town meeting has historically become the meeting where the town meeting decides where that free cash goes.
Exactly.
So if we don't get him in soon, somebody else is going to put their request ahead of ours for that free cash. I don't know that we need to spend all of the town's free cash, but if there's something that, a need, i.e. another food inspector, we'd be wise to do this much sooner than later.
That he made it clear that he's not gonna spend it out of that money.
But
He's
also-
Who
gonna
made it clear?
Michael Herbert.
We haven't had the meeting with him. Maybe we can
want to
be
take it
charming
out of-
and convincing.
He
at
was
that meeting.
suggesting that we need to take it out of the revolving fund, which is
Well,
great.
I think
guess
if we have that
that's-
conversation with the town manager and we can prove a need or a want, maybe we
No, no,
should be
we-
But
influential.
we should
Do
also
our
look
job.
to see if
He
we can do
accepts the
something
need.
about increasing nursing hours.
Exactly.
He
Yeah,
accepts
so-
the need.
5 hours a week is not
Not cutting
enough.
it. Not cutting it. That's why we need to do this ASAP.
Okay.
Before
right, next-
you object. Oh, one more second, okay.
Next agenda items.
Madam Chair, I mentioned too, if I may, and I
Yes.
know I'm not a member, but I mentioned Michael Herbert being on the agenda.
Yes.
And Han too, we noted at 7:30, and Michael came at
Yes.
7:50.
Yeah.
Does the board, it's up to you.
I-
Do you wanna handle
I
it?
do.
What time is council coming?
I do,
I will contact
Michael,
Michael
okay,
I
so
do
hold
want
on.
my
Yep.
food permit application form
and
and
personally
the,
invite him, so we need to get the food permits on.
That's gonna be an aggressive agenda though, isn't it, Madam Chair? With open
Yeah.
meeting law and
Well, we should
policies and
have-
procedures?
We should be able with, we could always, suspend the, yeah,
You wanted to go
policy
to
and
10,
procedures.
I don't
And
think that would be wise.
And I wanted to extend the meeting from 7 to 10, which would give us 3 hours.
That's a good idea.
Can I also add one more remark here? I do keep getting some emails because I'm a Conservation Commission member there. And some of these documents seem to lean on the jurisdiction of the Board of Health. I'm not sure whether he gets it or he doesn't get it. I keep sending it to the Board of Health. So if that's not coming to you, I think you should insist on getting those documents yourselves to make sure that
What are we talking
it's,
about?
What if,
some of the properties, for example, they file for septic systems or spillover somewhere, all of these
How do
things.
we know that he doesn't?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying because I don't get it, so I don't know whether he got it or not. So
What do you mean we don't get
I
it?
can help.
yes, Mark?
Megan works in the same office as I, so we not just communicate through email, we communicate directly.
Mhm.
And indeed, all septic plans, which I'm responsible for, we interact. So Megan and I do interact as the agents, and it's my responsibility per this board to review, approve, outside of irrigation wells. Everything else I review and approve, but we do interact. So we're in the same office. That's why
That's not the only thing, but the other things come also,
Well, the
which where
spill
I
was,
feel there seems to be a
unfortunately, that
jurisdiction
spill
of the
was the
health.
one
That's
you
why I keep
mentioned.
Yeah.
And the spill, I
I'm sorry, I
notified
couldn't
the
hear
board.
what he said.
Yeah,
but
he
it's-
asked about the spill. I notified the board within 24 hours of my findings. I didn't know about it either.
I understand, that's what I,
Again,
people within the same
Just so you
department,
know.
if they get it, if they know that there's an
If
issue
it's
that
an
there is
urgent-
with that, they
I'm
should,
sorry, two
they should
people are
email it
talking
to
at
you
once,
and
I'm
get
not
it.
able to hear.
So that's way, that way
And
to
if
do
I can
better.
respond,
Yes,
anything urgent, you're gonna know about it right away.
Right.
If it's urgent, you will know about it. That's my responsibility to you, to all of you.
Mhm.
So you will all know that as required by the law. And anything else that is generic to septic system reviews, if you want to be part of them again, well, that's a board vote. If you don't, it saves time here, well, we can do more administrative work. I look at all the board members and say, I would not suggest getting back into details that you're not experts on.
right.
And I'm not, again, being in any way adversarial.
Oh, we're a policy board, we're not a day-to-day
I would
board.
suggest that you again, let me finish, and I'm not in any way being adversarial, but that saves this board, as we were talking about food inspections, free up some time so I can do more of my administrative. Well, same for this board. Let me trust in me that I've been doing these for 40, well, I don't want to say how many years, because then people will say I'm old. I've been doing them for many years, and I'm very close watch on them. So we just had to do another one today. So if there is one that is controversial and the people don't like my review, you will see it. I will ask them to come to the board.
Yeah, one of the
Rather-
application was remember that the sewage leak that happened.
That's
in
what I
Sunrise?
just brought up.
Yeah.
I didn't know about it until
I
that
understand.
second day, and then I sent out notice within the required time I had to.
Right.
So
But
Okay.
such things
Just so,
don't,
you know,
the
I'm
other
going
other
on
department people, if they get it something which is within our jurisdiction, they should send it to Mark
Right.
or to the
quick.
board.
Yeah,
So that-
sometimes they forget, and again, I don't play the blame game on them.
No,
Everyone's busy.
all the
Everyone's
time
busy.
when there is a septic plan that comes to Conservation Commission, I always ask whether they've called you, talked to you, or
That's
are
good.
they coming before the Board of Health? That-
And if
that
not,
has been
I
done.
can promise you your agent, Megan, will make sure of that.
Absolutely.
She's excellent. Megan does a very
Okay.
good job.
It's good.
Next agenda items. Judith, do you have anything you want on the agenda?
I wasn't prepared to go first, but,
Shame on you. Not prepared.
well, Mary, I requested some understanding of the agenda at the beginning of the meeting. And so now I'm just being, oh, that's what this is supposed to be.
Well, you
So-
must have something that is
So
your.
please, Mary, let me
I'm
speak.
asking. You
Columbus,
must have something
Columbus
that really
Avenue,
concerns you.
Columbus Avenue, Brook Street, that neighborhood with the Conley bus. I believe that because it's our jurisdiction, under our jurisdiction, we should be taking action. We should be making serious consideration with all the information possible. That should actually be every meeting until it's resolved. They've been complaining, they've been expressing concerns since February. The House Street landfill. I continue to hear that there's much that's happening outside of this board in terms of decision-making. I think that should be on there. I do also believe that we should have a review from what's going on at Tech Review. I understand places like the RTD comes to Tech Review once a month, and that there are no minutes taken. I've requested minutes from the Tech Review process, and I've been told that they don't take minutes on a routine basis. So it's a process that I guess falls under the town manager, so therefore it's not a public process, and I would believe that our board should be getting routine summaries of those, summaries of those. So I will, portable toilets, one of the things with the, the Columbus Avenue and their ZBA approval, I understand, I haven't read the ZBA approval because our jurisdiction is separate from theirs, but I understand that there has been complaints, they've come here about public urination, and the need for us to be having a clear policy, because I understand that they wanted to put a permanent, temporary toilet there as a permanent structure, rather than doing what I see in other towns as permanent structures. So I think we should be talking about portable toilets. That's probably
Okay.
what I have right now.
Let's not fill the whole thing up from one person, Judy. We'll put those to be taken under advisement.
So,
KG,
yeah, besides the food permit application form and the
Yeah.
review on that one,
we've got that.
I was looking through one of the old documents, which was 2006, with regard to the EPA and DEP's recommendations with the town about putting some regulations or review or restrictions on the plume area. They had recommended in 2006, we are 2017. 11 years we've slept on it without doing anything. I know that Nyanza is working on that bylaw. Well, we don't have a copy of it. I think we should get a copy from them and look at it and speed up the process.
Copy of what?
Of the new bylaw that they're proposing for the plume area.
We're not even close.
Yeah, I know, I understand, but that was a recommendation the DEP made it to the Board of Health
No,
and
it's
the
a
building
good-
inspector
Well, we're not.
in 2006. And that document shows that we are sitting on it, we're not doing anything, so we need to make sure that we move forward with it.
Well, originally the plume is in a different place than where they thought it was to begin with, so.
Well,
Yeah.
they were very clear at saying that anybody who works in that area, digs anything, should come to them, as well as they recommended that we implement some new regulations. So we need to
give the
take
board
up
an
that
update on
and
that
let's speed up.
Okay.
I'm on the
I
committee,
can
so I
send
can give an
And
update.
I can give it to Diane,
I can
I
give
have
a
a
very,
sport, I have historical
I will send you
information for
that
another agenda.
old email that
There's reasons
Dan
for it.
Keefe
Yeah.
sent it to all of us, and that's sitting there, so I
Okay.
think,
I was part of
I
that
think
discussion.
11 years is a pretty long time for not doing anything.
Yeah, there was not doing anything, it was a matter of DEP and EPA being involved. So
No,
that's-
no, they recommended, taking their recommendation, working on
They
getting a
had-
regulation.
They had some issues.
We have no jurisdiction over Nyanza.
I
We're an
was-
Not on the
advisory
land, on the
component
plume, we
tonight.
do have
On
restrictions
on the
on.
plume, there was plenty of
On the
discussion
plume.
on why it didn't move. We were waiting on EPA for many things, and I'll go over it all with you, either offline or at a meeting. It's,
But, you know,
Full
to say
disclosure.
that we haven't done anything over the years.
that's why,
Metro West Regional Collaborative, Metro West Growth Committee, MAPC has done a huge informational
There's a
session
lot.
on the Sudbury River, all the signs that were placed up along the river. So to say
So
we haven't done anything.
that's
is an
the cleanup
egregious
effort and other things, but their recommendation was to have a regulation put on for that area. So that is the one that I'm talking about, a specific item of all of them.
and
I know that the 99 other things have been done, but this is another important thing that we should have attended to it, we need to attend to it. Yeah.
probably would be best, and it's up to the chair and the board, is to combine our efforts with EPA in the audience at an Nyanza advisory.
Right.
meeting.
That would probably be a good use of everything.
That would be smart.
When EPA
In
is
respect to
out.
having all of us together, and EPA especially, I can advise them to go back to the person I was dealing with, and they will find out that there were issues in why they couldn't put down regulations without knowledge of the plume. And we can go over all that, I don't wanna give away all
I
the
mean,
goodies. But that was the main intent.
No, they had pretty good map of where the plume is and how it's moving. They know.
Pretty good isn't precise, so if I live on the edge, and I can't put it on.
Are we getting off a little off topic?
That's why I'm saying, I'll
This is the
send it
agenda
for,
item anyway.
it gets
Okay.
brought up, but I'd
Put
be
it on.
glad to give all that information to, I got the
Yeah,
historical
the
review.
other thing is, could you go and check with them why they're holding on, not
Again,
cleaning
let's
the...
offline, because
No, this is not, this is just to
Well,
check on that.
Judy's correct, we should be doing this
Right.
offline.
They can
Ron,
inject
let's meet
hydrogen
next
peroxide
meeting.
and potassium cyanide into
Okay,
the
KG.
cleanup.
Ron, what would you like to say?
Well, I don't know that we'll have time for it, and it's probably not appropriate if Judy isn't going to attend. Just if you want me to give any kind of update, I don't know if the members have had a chance to look at all the proposals.
Yes,
I
I
know
have.
there's a lot of information in there. We can get people in to chat with us. I don't think it's going to fit on the next agenda, and if
No.
Judy's not there to help to really talk about it, it doesn't make sense. But that would really be whenever you feel like all five of
Okay.
us can get together. I can give any kind of report that you would like.
If you just, give us a little update at the next meeting, and then we can just put it on the following meeting
Okay,
and go into it in depth.
sure.
I had a chance
John?
to read it over the weekend, and I really want to
I
thank
know.
you.
Well,
Excellent
it
job.
really wasn't,
You really did a
it
great
really
job.
wasn't me. It was all it was just talking to these people, and it's really them,
It was-
and just, they
But you
they all
took the
did a
time
nice
to
You
do
did a
it
great
and put
job.
it all
Well,
together.
thank
That
you.
was
Well,
great.
Thank you, and Kate too. Kate was invaluable. And I still chat with her about it, so I just want to give credit where it's due, and she did a wonderful
She
job.
builds us. She
Well,
builds us.
okay,
too.
well, good for her for
Yep,
doing it,
absolutely,
because she
but-
worked hard.
But you were a
She
great
really
asset.
John,
did.
did you have anything?
I do have a couple things, and one might be a point of order, just to where, because I do believe that working together as a board is makes us a stronger community. Just want to make this board aware, the reporter in the room, Allison, is aware of this. There is going to be a meeting with the Chief of Police of Wellesley, Framingham, and Ashland. It's going to be in Natick next Thursday, not this Thursday, so it'll be 28th, over the opiate crisis. Mark is a member of Rotary, as am I. Rotary is sponsoring this meeting. Just maybe we could make a public announcement at the next meeting if you're interested and you're concerned, because I don't think there's a bigger.
Where is it going to be?
It's going to be at the Hampton Inn in Natick. You know, guys are familiar with where like Nordstrom's is, and over by where Home Depot is over there.
Yeah.
Hampton Inn is back over there. I don't believe there's a bigger single public health crisis right now than the opiate crisis. So if we could just update the public, and it's open to the meeting. Rotary Club is picking up breakfast for anybody who attends.
And
It'll be
you're-
Thursday, September 28th at 7:15 a.m. But each representative of those, Wellesley, Framingham, Natick, and Ashland will be there. You can kind of give a real quick update of what they're doing, what they need, how people can learn more, get involved. It's a good informational session, so I think that's a good thing. And
Absolutely.
this board, last meeting, agreed that we would have meeting minutes supplied for June 29th, August 8th, August 28th, 29th, and 31st by this meeting tonight.
Mhm.
I have not seen those. I am deeply concerned that we
Yes.
are not approving minutes in a timely fashion, and I don't understand why we haven't even been supplied rough drafts of
We haven't even
these.
seen them.
Right.
We were handed the 29th meeting minutes last meeting.
I haven't, I don't
Yeah,
believe
sent
I've
them
seen
out
them, and
this afternoon.
I did not see any
Yes,
correspondence this afternoon because I was busy racing here. But, I mean, come on, what the heck?
Those were meetings
What's going
that we
on?
were not at.
We're not.
I was not at.
I was not at, I mean, what's the problem here, guys? So we can discuss it, we can't discuss it tonight, but we'd like to see it on the agenda for the
Okay.
next meeting.
29th August, you were there, right? Meeting?
I'm not saying I was or
28th
wasn't, I still don't have the
August
meeting
20
minutes, is what
Just
I'm
for
saying.
the, if I can put a
Yeah.
point of information.
Does that matter if I was there?
28th
Where are the
was not.
minutes?
August 28th and August 29th, neither Laura nor I were at that meeting. I sent an email to an official in this town, per my manager's request, to make sure those minutes were done, either by the chair or the clerk that were at that meeting that night. Because of the fact Laura wouldn't know where to start as it relates to the meeting, because she wasn't there. And that's the status, that's my fact.
And that was in room B and C with 3 people,
I'm
3
sorry.
members.
Not,
this
not
on
on the
member
29th.
comment?
29th was televised. 28th, yes.
It doesn't matter, we still don't have
We
the
still
meeting
don't
minutes.
have them.
Yeah,
We don't have the minutes.
29th can be done.
Well,
Laura,
but
she has to walk
you
us
as a
through.
board
Laura's not to
member
do them.
were at a meeting last week,
Huh?
and you agreed that we would do it, and we haven't done it.
No, I didn't.
I don't
Yeah,
mind
the
either.
board did, the board agreed.
Board could vote on something and to shave my mustache off, but I don't have to.
Well, then maybe we should
Come on.
talk about removing
Vote.
you as the clerk then.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean,
Go
if you're not gonna
ahead.
take your
Please
job
go ahead.
seriously, then, maybe we should.
mean, it has
What,
to be
where
minutes.
does it say that the clerk needs to do the minutes? Please tell me. And then I looked at the policies and procedure. The only time the clerk takes
Wait a minute,
Hang
wait
on,
a minute,
hang
now
on,
we have
just a minute.
policies, breaking news, everybody,
No, no,
now we have
no.
policies
No,
and
no,
procedures.
I looked at it. Let me finish it.
I'll volunteer
Yeah, that's
to
what
go
we did
back
now.
and look at tapes and
I
transcribe
understand, but I'd like
Thank
to
you,
make
August
Ron.
29th, if that would help.
That would be
It
wonderful.
won't help, but there are
Just
more.
Laura doing it.
Yeah, you don't have to do this.
But there are more though.
And the board passes a resolution that Laura will do the minutes all the time.
If
And then
she's
now
at the
all of a
meeting.
sudden you want KG to do the minutes or XYZ to do the minutes.
If Laura's-
That's, it didn't say. The
No.
only thing is the meeting attendance was whenever it's possible. The minutes, you said that Laura will do the minutes.
Where's that?
It didn't say
Whenever
whenever.
possible.
Say Laura will do the minutes?
That draft will do the draft.
No.
That's what
Where
it
does it
says.
say that?
This is.
It's one of the resolutions that was passed in the meeting. Go back and look at it.
Okay, whatever. Ron, you're
I understand. Thank you for volunteering.
Yeah,
you know.
well,
But I just wanted to make
I'll do
sure.
that.
Well, can I just reiterate, what I don't have, and I can only speak as an individual member, I do not have June 29th, August 8th, August 28th, 29th, or 31st.
June 29th, I think Laura sent it today, if I remember right. Is that right?
Okay, and I acknowledged that earlier, that I hadn't had a chance to see any correspondence from late this afternoon, but that still
I
makes
think
the
Received it last
the clerk's office had that 29 June first draft way back.
way back.
Yeah, because there was a public records request by Betsy Emberley post 29 June,
Yeah,
and then I
way
was
back in July.
required to give that in a certain time, and I had prepared a first draft of it and
Well, we're
sent
kind
it.
of drifting off agenda. I asked that this be placed on the next agenda, not to discuss
Yeah.
tonight.
That doesn't matter. But,
Mark, do you have
tell you
anything
what,
I would ask
special?
that we, in the same request from John, as we talk about Laura and directives to her about minutes. I know the intent is to have Laura at meetings doing minutes, because originally the intent was to not have staff at meetings the
Right.
past 3 months. So please put, if you could, that on the agenda. I want to
Excuse
clear
me, the
that up.
intent was not to have staff at
I
meetings
want
for
to
the
clear
last
that
few
up at
months?
the next meeting.
That's an
Okay.
incorrect statement,
I
but
want to clear that up at the next meeting and indicate to this board management's objective if Laura is not at a meeting.
Oh, that's good.
could we have Mr. Herbert actually at that meeting, since Mr.
We
Herbert,
actually have him scheduled, we want to get him in at the next meeting.
on that particular topic, because all non-school personnel work under the supervision, direction, and control of the town manager. And I have repeatedly said it's not fair for personnel to be getting direction multiple ways, when in fact it comes from one individual, which is the town manager.
Okay. Anything else?
I will put on the items that were asked. The discussion on the RFP, the board will get that, so I don't see the need. Han 2,
We
we'll
want
get
them
them
to come
on
in.
7:30, and Michael Kane for 7:15, as I discussed earlier. And that's all I have. I may have items for updates to the board for that meeting, as I always have done in the past.
Madam Chair, would we be better to push town council back then to the 8 o'clock hour?
Yes. So that we can get through the hearings first.
Yeah.
in that line, I just want to applaud that Mark has, instead of giving bullet points, giving us a report like a paragraph. And if you can continue to do that, that would be wonderful, to keep the records on. Because sometimes we never get to his report in a meeting because
We
it's
haven't
from
got to
us.
his
Well, I
report.
think
So if
Madam
it's
Chair,
at least,
I think that
if
may
it's at least in
change.
a written form, then it'll be easier to
Well, if I can
attach it
explain
to
that,
the
Madam
minute. That'd be
Chair?
better.
Because I was not being part of the agenda, that's a fact. In the past few months, my manager told me to start sending reports until I could have my agenda back on the Board of Health's agenda. And now that this chair has allowed me to put my information and my report on this agenda, I will update you with that report for dialogue. That is the same message I sent to the previous chair. I think it's so important, and I think July 11th proved it, that dialogue, discussion, conversation, without feeling any feel of adversarial discussion, is important. It relays knowledge to all of us. I learn from you, you learn from me, and I think that's the way it's always been done that way until the most recent few months. And I think we should go back to that
Need to
way.
get back to it.
And that report was only because I wasn't allowed to place my items on agendas. Now I ask Madam Chair if I can continue to follow the process
Absolutely.
I followed prior to May. Thank you.
May I make a comment, please?
That's all I have to say, Madam Chair.
Quickly.
That's a word you use with me all the time, Mary. You
Well,
know what
I
mean?
wanna-
It's-
we don't
it's
have
a little
anything else
bit,
on
it's
the
a little bit
agenda.
insulting
I would like
since
to
they're
get adjourned.
individuals, since other individuals have free conversation.
Go.
So, concerning Mr. Orem's comments, I wanted to, for the record, object, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, your objection is heard.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes.
The fact that Mark Orem has been abused and harassed in this town, and he is still with us,
I know.
I thank the Lord above that he's
God bless him.
stayed with us through all this, because no human being should ever been treated the way
I think
he's
the
been
thing
treated.
that-
And I'd like that in the public record.
I think the thing that was most important at that July 11th meeting was Ron as a new member. That was the first time he got to hear a report from Mark. And that was what, 3 months into your term?
Breaks my heart to see what has
Well,
happened.
you know what,
Breaks
since
my heart.
everyone's discussing this, I think it's a little bit off agenda, but let's review that. I mean, there
No,
was
let's not.
3 weeks when,
We're moving
when,
forward.
there was 3 weeks when John prevented
We'll discuss
meetings
at
from
the next
even
meeting.
We can
happening.
discuss that at the next
And-
meeting
and
when we're
then-
talking about agendas.
Okay,
Can
so
I
are
have
we,
a
are we
motion
going
to
to
adjourn?
discuss,
Adjourn.
are we gonna
Should I have a
discuss
second
Mark
to the
Orem's
motion?
comments then?
All in
Because
favor?
what is
Aye.
happening
Aye.
now
4-0, we are adjourned.